Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to introduce my co-host today, none other, all the way from Bismarck, North Dakota, Miss Tanya Jo Hall. What's up, Tanya?
Hi.
How are you?
Madaki api. Chante washte na pe choose api. Hampa washte we machia. Michinchaki nupa. Hocho kanajiwi na kiwatni esquao ne sigatson. Yeah, hi everyone, excited for this SCO vote den. I also want to introduce my co-host, Tatanka Means. I don't even have to tell you guys where he's from. Everyone already knows me.
Thank you, Tanya. What's up, everybody? How are you doing from all over Indian country, all over Turtle Island? Yat e, Dagot e, OCO. Hamatakyapi, Chante Washtena Pechu Zapalo, Takanka means Machiapalo, Goala Lakota Hemacha, Na Umaha, Na Dakota, a Hanktowa Dakota, Na Didne, Porcupine, Imataha, Chinle, Arizona, Alwati. What's up? Good to be here today. I'm so excited to be here with Tanya and Indian Collective and all the guests that are going to be showing up and talking and performing. It's exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And just want to encourage everyone to make sure that you make a plan, whether you're going in to vote in person, remember to mask up, or you can also do an absentee ballot. Whatever you do, remember to have some sort of plan set in place.
That's right. Whatever you're doing, get it together. It's coming up quick. The day's coming up quick. We got a whole schedule of speakers, performers, singers, politicians. It's good. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. It's exciting. Thank you so much. Shout out to the Denver Singers for the honor song just now. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that was a really good song. Had me in my powwow feels. I was really standing up too, like I was at Grand Entry.
It's crazy right now, man. Like doing the whole virtual thing. It's like,
yeah, it is. It is. I'm nervous right now.
Are you wearing pants? I don't know. Like that's what it is. Like we don't have to do that. Right? It's waste up.
Yeah, don't even worry about it. It's all about right up here. That's what it's about.
I brushed my teeth and everything. I don't know why I brushed my teeth.
I put perfume on, patchouli.
Gotta get in the show mode.
Anti-perfume.
Yeah, need that scent, that anti-scent.
Yeah, nobody's even gonna smell it, but she smells good.
Yeah. I get whiffs from here. I know what it's like.
All right. Well, I'm really excited to be a part of this. I totally messed up on my intro because I could kind of hear myself back, and so I apologize for my relatives who are watching. Like, what did she just say? Like, come on, Tanya, pull it together. Me.
What did she say? Saying some cool stuff.
Next time, she'll totally redeem herself.
That's right. Well, we don't learn unless we do it, right? We gotta every time.
Yeah, that's right.
Get better and better. Like,
that's the thing about these live videos. They're live, so they're already out there. Too late.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody.
I'm excited for our first keynote speaker.
Yes, me too. Representing right here from New Mexico, out of Laguna Pueblo. Should we go ahead and introduce her now?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, sounds good. Everybody, please give a big welcome to our first keynotes here. I'm not sure if they're going one right after another, but I want to introduce Congresswoman Deb Haaland.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to join SCODEN, SCO Vote Den conference to speak today about mobilizing the Native vote. I'm proud to announce that I recently heard new information that approximately 11,000 new Native American voters have been registered across the country. Many of these new voters were registered in places like the Navajo Nation and Red Lake. This work could not have been done without folks like you working at the local level to help inform our communities and putting in long, thankless hours to help register people to get out to vote. I understand what that means. This upcoming election is the most important one of our lifetime. And the more Native voters that we can get registered now, the larger collective voice Indian country will have on issues that impact all of our communities. The work you all are doing to ensure everyone can participate in our democracy is extremely critical. And I know it's not easy. I'm an organizer, and for nearly 2 decades, I registered voters, knocked on doors, made phone calls in Indian country all across New Mexico, put on thousands and thousands of miles. I take my daughter, Soma. She was not excused from the fact that it's our obligation to make sure that folks get out and vote. And we would drive to some of the most remote places, 8 miles out into the desert, to talk to a family about voting. Because look, they deserve to have a conversation about what's at stake in our elections. So it was that experience that showed me that Indian country is the strongest when we work together. As many of you know, fierce fighter for voting rights and dear friend of mine who recently passed, Congressman John Lewis, was a giant in the fight for civil rights. He traveled through Mississippi, Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina to register voters. And that's when it was dangerous to do so. But he felt very strongly that if he empowered the Black community, and left the ladder down for future Black leaders to run for Congress, that it would have a lasting effect, and it has. John Lewis believed in equality deep into his bones, whether he spent his time registering people to vote in the South or was disrupting segregation norms as one of the original freedom riders. He wasn't afraid to get into good trouble. Regardless of the beatings during the sit-ins in whites-only establishments, and even after his death, in the essay published on the day of his funeral, where he stated, "The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it's not guaranteed and you can lose it." I think we understand what that means. Marginalized communities across this country continue to fight to participate in our democracy. Our beacons of light in our march toward equality have been great leaders like the Honorable John Lewis, Miguel Trujillo, right here in New Mexico, who was a World War II Marine veteran from the Pueblo of Isleta, and who sued the state of New Mexico for our right to vote in state elections right here in New Mexico. And that was only 70 years ago. While Miguel Trujillo is lesser known on the national stage than Congressman Lewis, their legacy of standing up to injustice to secure voting rights for our people is only part of our generational fight. They have passed us the baton, and now we have an obligation to run our leg of the race. These leaders taught us that voting is not just important, voting is our power. Voting is sacred and must be treated accordingly. Our elders entrusted our generation as the keepers of this power, and if we don't protect it, then, as Representative Lewis stated, it could be taken away. We all know this as a fact, since nothing has come easy to Indigenous people in a country that attempted to eradicate us. They massacred our unarmed, they abused our children in boarding schools and set fire to our livestock in ditches while they burned alive. Our right to vote is our power. This is even more critical in Indian country because, unlike any other group of people, the federal government has a trust responsibility to Indian tribes that was established through our treaties and executive orders and acts of Congress for the loss of lives and lands that our families sacrificed. Historians have long stated that the eradication of Indians was the most massive act of genocide in the history of the world, where 120 million Native Americans died between 1490 and the 1800s. And we must also never forget that Hitler was inspired by the Indian reservation system in the United States and praised America's extermination methods of starvation and uneven combat of the red savages who were tamed by captivity. Considering what our ancestors had to go through so we could be here today, to not exercise our right to vote is a disservice to those we have lost and the family lines that have been eradicated or suffered human rights violations, like the forced sterilization of Native women at Indian Health Service facilities up to the 1970s, or the smallpox blankets the military passed out to our people. Knowing this history teaches us that resources and support for Indian country have not and will not come easy. This is especially true under this administration, which tried to eliminate $8 billion in federal CARES Act funding to tribes during this COVID pandemic, inappropriately named their alleged MMIW work after a military operation. who have destroyed ancient burial grounds to build a wasteful wall, and an administration that continues to disrespect us at photo ops parading Native women and code talkers in front of a painting of Andrew Jackson in the Oval Office. And a country that can elect a president that glorifies disrespect and anger based off a platform guided by nothing but fear. It should come as no surprise that we're going to have to fight for our voices to be heard and for those who come after us. We must lead by example to show our young people what their responsibility will be in the future so we can create a legacy for Indian country together. The struggle that we have faced as Native Americans in the United States did not begin with us, and it will not end with us. We, like the late Congressman John Lewis and Miguel Trujillo, are only a chapter of a larger American story, a story that we will leave behind for our young ones to continue writing so they can pass it down to the next generation to guide them to protect the sacred. As part of our undeniable responsibility to exercise our hard-won voting rights, I'd like to leave you with a quote from the beautiful and immensely powerful Muskogee Creek poet, our U.S. Poet Laureate, Joy Harjo, who once said, "A story matrix connects all of us. There are rules, processes, and circles of responsibility in this world, and the story begins exactly where it is supposed to begin. We cannot skip any part." I believe that our story matrix is the legacy of Indigenous people that our ancestors planted in us long before we were on this earth. It is now our responsibility to build from that strength of the late John Lewis and Miguel Trujillo for our little ones and the ones who have yet to arrive, so they can begin again in the peace times. And we cannot skip our part. We must be fierce and make our voice heard this election. So let's go vote, Den. Let's make sure our voices are heard. I'm so proud and honored to be here with all of you. And you can bet that I'm going to keep working to get out the Native vote for 15 more days. Thank you.
Amadakiapi, Nick Tilson, Amachapi, Chantea, Washtenapa Chuzapalo. Nick Tilson, honored to be here with you, each and every one of you today, talking about Go Vote Den, and wanted to say how I'm excited for this conversation, and I want to bring into this conversation a good friend, a good relative, who was one of the very first elected women in Congress. Congressman Representative Sharice Davids is going to be joining us here together to kind of unpack what voting is and why it's important for us to vote in Indian country. So as we're queuing her up to join us, I just wanted to say I'm somebody who, like, I straight up question the government all the time. I'm like, is my vote going to even count? All the stuff that we go through as Indigenous people. But I just wanted to share that the way that I look at it is it's one mechanism. It's one tool and one mechanism to create change. It's not the end all be all forever, but it's one mechanism, a strategy, and tool that's at our disposal. So we should use it. We should use it to create change. We have a say-so in who some of the leaders are, and it creates us a way to elect them, and it creates us a way for us to keep them accountable. Do I think it's going to change all of the problems facing Indigenous communities? Probably not, but it's a fundamental way for us to get there. So, I just wanted to share that much, and I think we're bringing in Sharice Davids at this time to join in this conversation. Oh, there she is, Sharice. I just want to say before she jumps in, Sharice is a good friend. We threw down together in the development work that we're doing at Thunder Valley together, and she really is a badass, and she will do an armbar on you. So look out. But anyway, Sharice Davids.
Hey, Nick. Well, first of all, and hi, everybody. I'm so glad to be able to join you all here today. I know I got a chance to hear my dear friend, Deb Haaland, Congresswoman Deb Haaland, speak for a little bit about why it's so important to vote, about how, how important it is to raise our voices up. And Nick, I saw you stumbling around because it's probably weird to say congresswoman or representative because we've known each other for so long. I know you and I have actually had tons of conversations about the voting process. In fact, when I was, the federal government, our state governments, and the interactions that tribal governments have had in this country. And just so folks know, when I was really in the middle of trying to decide, do I or don't I want to run for office? And what's it going to look like? And, what's the best path forward? Nick is one of the people who is such a good friend and mentor. And I just appreciate his I truly believe Nick is a visionary. So he was one of the people that I really was like, should I do this thing? I'm thinking about running for Congress. And of course, it was now it's go vote then, but then it was run. you should run. So I think this is such a fitting conversation for us to be having today.
Yeah, I mean, can you touch on that? Can you touch on that a little bit? Because I think one of the things that like gets in our mind as like Native people and Indigenous people is that this stuff's not attainable. And what I loved in the work that we always got to do together, Sharice, and even when the decision that you made is just the attitude of like, this is attainable actually, like we actually like Sharice is an everyday person walking on the street, and decided to run for run for Congress, and her being herself has been good enough, and I think that if you could just talk about like your decision a little bit, because I think a lot of people say, hey, can I make a difference in this world or not? And you woke up one day, he said, I think I'm going to run for office. And actually, the funny story is, way before Sharice ever decided to run for office, it always seemed like she was always running for office anyway, because she would like go to like LNI and be shaking everybody's hand, and all of us would be like, shh, you ain't even from here, trying to run for tribal council or something. So I just want to razz Sharice a little bit and tease her about that, but also just go through the process of like, why did you decide to run?
Thanks. That's funny. I remember going to, when we would go out to LNI, and for, I imagine most folks know what LNI is, but, it's this massive gathering, and started off as a basketball tournament. Now it's this huge thing. And folks would always tease me because I just come in and be like, hey, how are you? I think that's really interesting what you said about feeling like I'm an ordinary person. And that's actually something that I think is really important. I was raised by a single mom. She was in the Army for 20 years. So she raised me and my two brothers by herself. And, we traveled around because she was getting stationed and in different places. And I graduated from Leavenworth High School because that's where she retired from the Army at. And, I'm a first generation college student. I started off at community college. It took me 4 years to get my associate's degree. It took me 4 years to get my bachelor's degree. I was working the whole time I was in school. And I think that those are all just like very common experiences. It's not uncommon to be raised by a single parent. It's not uncommon to work and go to school at the same time. I had jobs in high school too. And I think that when I thought about running for office, I had actually asked other people to do it because I felt like, I think it just it wasn't a thought that I had. I was like, I can support different people who could help make a difference. And then I remember thinking, if I'm going to ask the question, like, who's going to do something about this, maybe I should think about whether or not I can be part of the answer. And I think that recognizing that there are really so many ways for us to contribute. And there are some folks who are doing the work, boots on the ground, like out there. And Nick, you are certainly one of them, out there working on making this place better for our children and grandchildren and so many generations after that, from the outside. And for me, because I had the chance to go to law school, I felt like, and I had the chance to serve in the Obama administration, I felt like, well, I have all these skills and I know that I can be of service in this way. And so I think that, the decision to run for office was certainly something that I needed your help, of course, making that decision. But my mom too, I talked to her a bunch about it, and other family, relatives and folks, to try to see if this seemed like a good way to make a difference. And for me, it was absolutely, I feel like, the right decision to make. But, I liked what you said earlier about this is one of the ways that we can make a difference. Voting, of course, helps impact who's there at the decision-making table. And then all the other ways that we, do community engagement, reach out to folks, make sure that people are, that their voices are heard. Because my job now as an elected is to listen to people. Really. And for too long, we didn't have people who were in office who were listening to folks. Everybody's always trying to be somebody else's voice. Like, Native people don't need somebody else to be our voice. We need people who are in decision-making positions to be listening.
Absolutely. No, thanks, Charisse, for sharing those words. And it's just a reminder for all of us to go out there and vote, and go vote then, and go out there. It's because as a Native person, I'll be down if somebody keeps speaking for me, right? And so the people that are in those spaces, and the thing I always appreciated about you, Charisse, as we wrap up here, is just that you are, you're Charisse Davids, and you're not like, I'm a Native American Congresswoman Charisse Davids, but you always approach it with just a human being first. And I appreciate that, because I think that at the end of the day, we need people who are making the decisions about the lives of our people throughout this nation to just be human beings first. And I always appreciated working with you and the work that you do in Congress in that way. So I want to thank everybody for having us on here, and obviously go vote then, and keep up the good fight, Charisse.
You too, Nick. And I have to ask, are you in a van?
I stole the paddy wagon from the police. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm inside of a van. Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you all so much for having me. I'm so excited that this event came together, that folks are getting on here and talking about ways to make our voices heard in this system, and all the ways that can happen. But at the end of the day, this is about getting out the vote, making sure that Natives are getting out the vote. And let's go vote, Dan.
Hey everyone, thank you for your good words, Dev. It's always nice to hear outside of like your speaking, like as a congresswoman, like for us to hear you say Skoden, like, oh, okay, she got a little res in her. We like that. And thank you, Nick and Charisse. It was nice to hear you guys teasing each other, Nick teasing Charisse, and to even hear your story, Charisse, is really important for a lot of us, especially as a Indigenous woman. For me to hear your story and to understand where you come from it's also very motivating that we all have that opportunity. And I was relating on a lot of levels. You being raised by a single mom and then being your first generation college student, there's so many people who are watching this right now and inspired by that. And so I'm really thankful for, especially both of you women, for standing up on behalf of our people and using your voices. That's what it is about. And this year's election is so important for us to use our voices. The vote is like our voice, and so it's really important for us to step forth and each use our voices. And however we're going to do that, make a plan, pile up your car, invite your cousins. They don't even go to town, but pick them up anyway. Make them have their ID. The more people we have in our cars going there to vote, because we're Indians, we like to do things together. Hey, I don't want to go alone. Jeez, come with me. I know that's how I am. So I'm not gonna go alone. I'm gonna go pick people up and have them come with me. And I have a lot of cousins too. So and they won't deny me, because I'll throw in, well, let's go eat after that. So you know how us Indians are right away. Oh, we're gonna go eat? Okay then. And vote? All right then. So that's just an idea for you to pick up your cousins, pick up your friends, pick up your neighbor. Maybe if you know somebody doesn't have a vehicle, just get a package of those masks and say, get in, pass around that hand sanitizer, and go to the voting polls and just make it a little voting party. I think that's really important. And earlier I messed up on my introduction, and so I'm just gonna redeem myself, give myself a re-ride. Madakyapi, Hampa Washdewi Amatyab, Kahiu Watni Esquel Nitsigatsun, Machinta Ki Num, Ochoka Najui na Wachihi Ziwi Awichakyapi. Waswalha na 3 affiliated tribes, Emataha. All right, there we go. Redeem myself. Here are my relatives. My Lakota name is Pretty Moccasins Woman. My Cree name is Eagle Tail Woman. I'm a mother of two daughters, Yellow Plume Woman and Stands in the Center Woman. I come from Standing Rock Sioux Tribe and the 3 affiliated tribes, Malakota, Damakota, Hewaktota. And I'm happy to be here, happy to be a part of this. This is so important for all of us to, each of us have that ability to encourage people to vote. And when I'm saying like make it a party, it's each of us can inspire one of our relatives, like, come with me. It's important for you. And they might say like, nah, my vote's not even gonna matter, but it is. And so each of us have those connections to be able to reach those relatives that maybe this panel, or maybe us speakers who are on here aren't able to do that, but you might be able to do that. So remember that your voice is important, and you never know who you can inspire and motivate to come with you to the voting polls, or even to get an absentee ballot. But anyways, I'd like to just again say thank you to Nick, Deb, and Charisse. You guys did such a good job, and I like the bantering between Charisse and Nick. You guys are crazy. Just Nick just coming in from the band. All right, they said powwow vibe, so that's why he did that. All right, so the first panel here is Building Power Panel. Sarah Manning is a panelist. Nicole Yans, Amber Stark, sorry if I butcher your name, Lael Camargo. That's what I got. So introducing our next panel, our first panel. Thank you guys for being here with us, and you're on.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Sunshine Manning, and I'm Noah and Nema. I am a citizen of the Shoshone-Paiute tribes located on the Duck Valley Indian Reservation in northern Nevada and southern Idaho. And I'm also a descendant of the Chippewa Cree tribes of Rocky Boy, Montana. And I'm the Director of Communications for NDN Collective. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for joining us here for this Go Vote Den virtual Intertribal. It feels so good to be in the presence of such powerful people with such powerful roots connected to this land during such a pivotal time. And just to be able to be together and laugh and listen to good music and to really soak in the empowerment and the encouraging words of those who have already spoken and those who are going to be speaking throughout the duration of this program. First of all, I want to say that it cannot be understated that we stand on the shoulders of ancestors who fought to their last breath to protect our people, our way of life, and our lands. We've inherited their legacy and we benefit from all of their sacrifices so that we can be here today. And what we're going to talk about on this panel about building collective power are the many different nuances and complexities of who we are as Indigenous people who are standing on colonized lands, who have endured a long history of oppression and marginalization, and yet we're talking about participating in a system that intended to erase us. And so this panel, we're really going to dig deep into unpacking what that means for us. What does that mean for this movement time that we're in this time of COVID, and this time of standing up for racial justice and social justice? But first of all, like in light of all of that, like I said, I know that we're all really happy and proud of who we are. And our very existence today is really, really powerful. So what we'd love to do a little bit more now is get a little more engagement going in the chat. So if you haven't done so already, let us know what nation you're from. Let us know what territory you're calling from. So drop that in the chat right now. Give us some hearts, give us some lilies and hokas if you're happy to be here. And yeah, we'll keep the conversation going that way too. So for this panel on building collective power, we'll be talking to Amber Starks, Lael Camargo, and Nicole Yanes. Each one of these individuals coming from movement spaces where they've participated in organizing in their communities, building power in a multitude of ways. Because we know that in order to get the fight for the rights that we also deserve, we have to have a multi-pronged strategy. There's not one thing, there's no silver bullet. So these individuals come from places where they understand just exactly what it takes to mobilize in their communities. So with that, I'd love to start with just some personal introductions. So we'll go around and do a quick round of introductions. Please introduce yourselves. And then after you do that, after you give yourself a personal introduction, share with us what collective liberation means to you in this unique time that we're in. And we'll go ahead and get started with Amber.
Esche, everyone. Amber Chehotefkados. Hi, my name is Amber. I am a citizen of the Muskogee Creek Nation. I'm also of Shawnee, Yuchi, Quapaw, and Cherokee descent, and I'm very much a proud Black woman as well. I am an activist, I would say. More, I just have like ideas about how we can get to a liberated future where Black and Indigenous peoples and all people of color can exist outside of oppression. So collective liberation for me means looking at the intersectionality of marginalizations and oppression under white supremacy, settler colonialism, and racial capitalism. So in order for us to achieve this grand idea, which we are more than capable of because we're brilliant, I think it's really important for us to start understanding how tied we are to one another, how our oppressions exist under this same kind of colonial project, right? And so if we are to ever reach this point of living outside of this, we have to understand that if the least of us isn't free, then none of us are free. And so that's what I think about when I speak to like a collective liberation.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. Give us some pluses in the chat if you love what you're hearing, pluses and hearts. All right, we'll go next with Lael.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Lael Camargo here. I'm coming to you from Wichan Territory, also known as Berkeley, California. I am Latinx. I'm a descendant of the Yaqui and Mayo tribes of the Sonoran Desert. I'm really happy to be here with you all. I'm transgender, I'm gender nonconforming. I am a filmmaker, I'm an activist, I'm an artist. And yeah, with that being said, I love to talk about issues that are around climate, environmental issues, immigration, and just like the freedom of our people as a whole. I think about collective liberation as there is no real liberation until all of us are free. If there is even a group of people, a subgroup of people that is incarcerated, criminalized, being targeted by systems of oppression, then that means that the rest of us are benefiting from that system. So collective liberation is the authentic core of all liberation, and liberation as it is. We cannot say that we are liberated if there are still a few of us that are living on the margins and experiencing large systemic oppression.
Thank you, Lael. Right, Nicole.
Thank you, Sarah. And Lael, I'm just from a few tribes away from you. Noteguat, Nicole, Ekanao, Iwasarana. I greet you with a good heart, and my name is Nicole Yanes. I am a community organizer, and I am from the Opata Nation. Our people were divided by the colonial border between the United States and Mexico. And I am program officer with NDN Collective, and it's an honor to work with this collective as we build the collective power of Indigenous peoples. What does collective liberation mean to me at this moment is a really good question, Sarah. And I think it's a question that I would propose that all the ones that are joining us answer as well to themselves, and even put in the chat. But for me, collective liberation means that in this moment that we continue to exercise our collective rights as Indigenous peoples, that we continue to defend, develop, and decolonize, which is what we're doing here at NDN Collective, because we have to create a world that is more equitable for all people, but also for the planet, which means restoration, ecological restoration of our lands. And for that, we need to have full control of our lands. And so just continuing to exercise our collective rights so that we have human rights, our human rights respected, such as clean water, air, and food.
Thank you, Nicole. That was beautiful. Yeah, it's so great to listen to each of your individual responses, and definitely so much to learn. So like Nicole said, it would be really great for y'all to drop in the chat what collective liberation means to you. I think it's really important to constantly be in the space of that question. And when we're in that space of continually like reflecting as an individual and as a collective, that's when we're really going to see substantial change happen. And I know that's what we all want. So getting to our next big question here, I wanted to talk about this complexity that I mentioned and named at the top of this panel, and that is that we represent people groups, individuals, communities that this democracy was not intended to serve. This democracy was not made by us. In fact, it was the settler colonial project was built on our very erasure. The stolen land and stolen bodies are what ultimately built this nation. And that's really a reckoning that we're coming to in 2020 in this time of pandemic. So given that we know the history, all of us on this panel know very acutely that this democracy was designed to harm our people. So let's talk about that complexity. How do you personally reconcile that? And I know that there are a lot of Native folks, Indigenous folks that are like, I'm not going to participate in a system that is here to destroy us. How do I trust in that? So for you each as individuals, as organizers, as movement builders, how do you personally reconcile that? And what does that contradiction mean for you today in terms of your participation in this historic 2020 election? So any one of y'all can just jump in. Let's just have this be a little more conversational. So respond to each other. Let me know what you think.
So I'll take it on first. So I think that how I reconcile it is first to be honest about it. You know, like you said, Sarah, like this was the intent, that we be marginalized, that we be disenfranchised, unincorporated, and destroyed, if we're honest about it, right? But we're still here. And that's the beauty of it. I think for me, reconciling it has to do with being honest that the system exists, and that as long as the system exists, having political power within that system is necessary to help dismantle that system. So I am of the firm belief, like Audre Lorde says, that the master's tool cannot, dismantle the master's house. But I sure as heck think that we can take some sledgehammers and put holes in it, right? And I also think that it's important that we recognize that while this system exists, it will continue to threaten our sovereignty. It will continue to try to erase us. It will continue to demand that we stay on the margins and that we don't have access to power within that system. However, I don't believe that this is the way that we get to the Indigenous future that we hope for, right? I think that there's on the ground work that we have to be consistently doing. I think that there are things that we need to be doing in our communities to uplift one another, because the system is never going to uplift us. And so for me, it's like this parallel work of voting, because I know the importance of the political power that we can have within the system. But on the outside of that, I'm looking towards something that doesn't require the system, that we will be able to operate and exist as we did before outside the system. And I know that feels like such a big goal, but empires have fallen, and they will fall, and they will continue to fall. And I think that the organizing outside of the system is where my heart is, but I always kind of keep an eye on what our oppressors' intent is for us, right? We can't be ignorant to the fact that there is a real plan to continue to marginalize us, to continue to kind of do away with us, and hope that we pretend it doesn't exist. But we have to remind ourselves, we have to keep our eye on the fact that the system is a real thing, but it's only temporary. Hundreds of years temporary, but it is temporary.
Yeah, I can go next. Thank you for that, Amber. That stark, just reality of where we're really at. I mean, I think we're at this place where like anything can happen, and none of us feel like anything we do actually makes a difference. And we see more progress in just building with our community, looking at the local efforts that we're doing, supporting each other. Even through COVID, we were really able to show up for each other. And I think in thinking through this election, it feels like kind of leaving that beautiful place that we created at the beginning of this year of like community integration, community organizing, like just really falling into like our family roots of just being there for each other physically while being socially distanced. And I think when I think about voting, it really is this like sobering experience of like this year could make or break whether children continue to being detained in centers, whether we have a government and an administration that completely negates that climate change is even happening, and that we are the biggest perpetrators of this global crisis. And so I think when I hear the apathy of my people just being like, I don't really care about the government. It's actually ridiculous that I would even vote. My votes don't count at the end. My vote doesn't even make the final decision. We've been, for lack of better words, screwed over by the way that the system has been set up, because it was set up to work against us, to benefit a few group of people, being white, affluent, everybody, the folks who have the largest amount of power and wealth. And so when I think about our involvement in the election, it's a small harm reduction strategy. It is our way of just showing up, organizing, looking at what we are voting for. I like to have friends over when that was possible, but now everything's virtual through Zoom. But I like to gather friends and just go through the propositions that we have to vote for, and just be like, which ones do you think? We look at voting guides that we are so fortunate enough that we have so many nonprofits that already do their own research based off of the areas of work that they're hoping to support. They kind of inform us on how the propositions support their work. So the work is kind of easier for us to make that plan to go out and vote, and that it's a good way, again, to do that community localized, harm reduction strategy. I think of voting as that. I also think about my grandmother, who was the most amazing, grounded woman. Just she taught me about plants and how to take care of them. And I gather a lot of my passion for the soil and the earth from her. She said, you always go out to vote because we didn't have the option to before. And so you show up because that's what you do to honor us. Because I was like, Grandma, why do you vote? Like nothing's going to change. And that's what she taught me. So I think that you do it to honor the people who weren't able to. You show up because it's another way to organize and gather your community as a whole to think through how you're going to do these harm reduction strategies. And it's just a small thing to do in the larger scale, which to me, the larger scale is really organizing and working with the people who are around you.
Great points. And I will be quick here. But you're exactly correct, Sarah. What you mentioned, the colonial system was not built and is not built or designed for Indigenous people and people of color. How I approach this upcoming election and my participation on it is, like Nick said and Congresswoman Deb was saying, we have to use every tool and mechanism that we have. And voting is one of them. And this election is critical. That doesn't mean that the work will be done. Actually, we have been doing the work, we continue to do the work, and we will continue doing the work for our nations and for our people and all people. But we do see the big difference that it makes on having two Native congresswomen in Congress. And the difference that it makes in having our voices heard and our voices represented. And yeah, we don't have a Native president running right now, and hopefully we will soon. But right now we just have to vote, and we have to participate in the way that we use every tool and system that we have right now. And how I take it, how Lila was saying, I'm voting because a lot of people can't vote. A lot of people that I know cannot vote, and my vote is for them.
Real. Use every tool, and that you don't have to become that tool. You don't have to let that tool define you. Because I know everyone on this panel, you are some rad folks that believe in so much more than the system and believe in truly organizing outside of the system. So thanks so much for sharing all that you did. Just so happy to learn from you all here. And one quick round, just in just a short phrase, considering that we all have acknowledged the limitations of the system, what would you say to folks about continually building power in their communities before, during, and after the election? Just a short phrase. How do we continue to do that? Considering that the outcome might not be what we want it to be. So building collective power before, during, and after.
I can go first. Being as brief as possible. Before the election, make a plan with your friends. Just talk about it. Even try to get a temperature check. If there's things on the ballot that maybe don't impact you, talk to people who it does. And just be willing to just do that work ahead of time. During the election, get informed. Maybe throw a virtual party to see the polls come in. Be each other's support system. We will be disappointed a lot at this election. We might also get some big surprises. Our options aren't the best, but it is important for us to always feel empowered, even if it feels like everything's against us. And then after, use that power, that energy, that fire, that anger, that joy, and keep going to the streets, marching, advocate for your people. We're going to need a lot of reimagination as we move forward, as people who are really gathering in this beautiful moment that 2020 was for us, as celebrating and coming in and just being a whole power that we can be. And we're going to need that momentum moving forward, because a lot of what's happening around us is going to dictate how we survive together and how we reclaim our power back.
I guess I can go next. Yes to all that. I also want us to remember that we're Indigenous, we're brilliant, we're still here. That in itself should tell us how capable we are of navigating these really hard, harsh systems. I mean, I think about what our ancestors went through, and they went through some real-ish, y'all, some real stuff, and we are still here in spite of that. And so I want us to remember how brilliant we are, how capable we are, and that we can care for each other, we can love each other, we can support each other as we're navigating this this insecure world that we've lived in for such a long time. But in spite of that, we've done mutual aid. We've reclaimed land back and started growing our own foods, right? We make jewelry. We do all these amazing things in spite of our oppression. And I want us to understand that we existed before our oppression. We're existing in the midst of it, and we will exist on the outside of it, right? And so I think that is important in spite of our fears, in spite of our, in spite of all of this feeling like it's overwhelming. Let us remember that what we're capable of. Let us remember what our ancestors endured. Let us remember that we have a future and that we will have descendants who will look back at what we went through and said that we can continue going because our ancestors endured.
And completely agree with both Amber and Lilo and everything that you shared. No better way to put it. But what I think we have to keep doing also is supporting the struggles and the rights of other communities that are being violated right now. We see what's happening in Megama. We see what's happening in Tana Autumn Nation. We see what's happening in Kumeyaay Islands. And so not because it doesn't directly affect us or it's in our backyard, it doesn't mean that we can't show up or that we don't show up. And so we show up for them as best as we can right now, during, and after for all of our communities as best as we can. And like Lilo said, we have to be there for our friends and for each other. And we have to go vote. We have to go vote. I'm not a voter, but this is, I think, the first election that I'll be voting in because it is critical, or the second election, because it is critical that we vote, and especially for the children and for everybody else who can't vote. So thank you, Sarah, for hosting us and in this panel, and to all of you for being here with us and listening to us. Back to you, Sarah.
And your authenticity, it's really empowering. So thanks, everyone. You.
Yes. Meadow, thank you for having me. And thank you for sharing community with me, both of you.
Thank you, y'all. It was a pleasure. Take care, everybody. Let's go out to vote. Let's show these people where it's at.
Let's go vote in, y'all. Let's go.
Vote.
Hello everyone, I'm Ray Saragosa, and I'm so excited to be performing for you today. I'm going to play a song for you called Fight Like a Girl, and this song is about stepping into our power and using our voices to not only speak up, but also to vote. So please don't forget to vote. And this is Fight Like a Girl. Grandma Nature, Mother Moon, show me what to do when they are taking our rights away, policing our parties. Easy, easy we go. It's repeating on and on. Take me to the water, take me to the snow, where all the souls of our mothers had to go. Take me to the street sights, teach me your battle cries. Take me to the front lines of the war, to fight like a girl. Send me knowledge, send me peace from when you were fighting for all the rights I have today. Our homes, our votes, our voices. Easy, easy we go. It's repeating on and on. Take me to the water, take me to the snow, where all the souls of our sisters had to go. Take me to the street sights, teach like a girl. Fight like a girl. Fight like a girl. Fight like a girl. Take me to the water. Take me to the snow, where all the souls of our mothers had to go. Take me to the street sights, teach me your battle cries. Take me to the front lines of the war, to fight like a girl. Thank you, everyone.
Greetings, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. I am so excited to be with you here today. I'm catching my breath. Ihangtwa hemacha, chante upia ke napechiuzapi. I shake your hand with a good heart. Tonkai inajiwi hemiak sto. I am Standing Stone. My English name is Faith Spotted Eagle, and I am a 72-year-old elder. My birthday was last week. I'm a proud Virgo as of a few weeks ago, 72, and just catching my breath because about a half hour ago, the auditor's office closed, and my voter team, our voter team, has been hitting the ground hard, and we sped into the auditor's office with our last pile of registered voters from the Ihangtwa Oyate. And they're all laid out at the Braveheart Lodge on the couches, going home, going to have soup and fry bread, and just breathe a sigh of relief because we have registered a whole bunch of voters. We have 5,600 voters in our county, and our goal, maybe by the end of this year, is to have over 3,000 voters, maybe 3,500. We would actually take the majority of the voters. We'll just continue to do this until we just make it a habit that won't go away. And so we're celebrating with you. As of half hour ago, my team is catching its breath, running home for supper, and we are celebrating tomorrow with squash. We're going to have squash, sweet potatoes. We're going to have buffalo. We're going to have a good Dakota celebration meal. So what I want to share with you is the experience that we had on the ground. My team was very young. I think it's very important for us elders not to try to be stingy with the stage, but to make sure that somebody at the same time we're mentoring, we're sharing, we're teaching, and at the same time being open to their teaching, because I always surround myself with young people and they have so much to teach. Not only lyrics about the songs, I am so tuned into music ever than before. And sometimes I embarrass them, but I think it teaches me what they're thinking. And they have so much to offer. And at the same time, with my memories and my experience, we make a real good team. So for the last 6 weeks, with Illuminative and Native Organizer Alliance backing us through Braveheart Society, we have 4 communities, and we have been talking to one by one. That's the name of the game, is one by one. The thing that I think that I want to impart to people that are listening is that the foundation and the underlying work that is going to help us to go further in combating all the structures of violence that are keeping us oppressed is a sense of healing. Every single experience that we go through, we're recovering not only from what the colonial people call post-traumatic stress disorder. It was not a trauma, it was an apocalypse. What we went through was apocalyptic. I mean, it completely destroyed all of our systems, almost to the point of non-existence. Luckily, we've been able to retain some governance structures at the grassroots level. And so our role at Braveheart Society and operating and cooperating with other grassroots that get that, we are doing CPR with good medicine. The good medicine that is the CPR that we do to combat those two principles that I heard the speakers before me talk about, those colonial structures that have ingrained itself into our spirits that we have to purge from our spirit. One is to erase and replace. The second is the logic of elimination. And so that was loud and clear when we were out on the ground asking people to vote. We would come across over and over older people, young adults would say, I don't have to vote for a government that doesn't recognize me. And so we'd have to go through the whole teaching, the detoxing, the healing, the prayer, the explaining, and we need to do that thousands of times over for all of our people because the pain is still there from the apocalypse. And so the other thing that we have found is that it's easier for the young people to do the interpreting with their peers because they speak the same language. And so that's why we came up with this t-shirt. I want to stand up a little bit and show you the t-shirt that our young people came up with. And this is what we gave away to the community. And I noticed that's the name of your show, but we have t-shirts made. And of course, our young people did that. And so they are our interpreters to a world that sometimes our elders don't understand. But at the same time, we have wisdom and experience that we can share with them. But there's a really fine balance where we have to make relationship with the type of elder and the type of youth that we have now. The other thing that I think that we need to be aware is that there are gatekeepers in the community that actually promote colonial structures, and they happen to be people of our own. So we don't have to eliminate them. We don't have to erase them. We just figure out how do we invite them and create doors where they can be part of this healing. For many, many years, I've been a PTSD therapist with the VA. The VA is probably one of the most violent structures that we have in the US government. My pet group was always the Vietnam veterans, and they taught me so much about violent structures, and their bodies paid for it. And so I think that if we begin to see that we are recovering from these structures of violence on the land, voting structures, tribal government, grassroots, that if we can begin that detoxing process, we will stop opposing each other for little tiny pot pies. Because we're not even fighting for the big pot pies. We're just going for kills over those little tiny crumbs that are given out to us, even COVID monies. In my mind, COVID money was a violation of the treaty because the treaty ensured that we already paid for those things that they were handing out, but they put restrictions on it. And they said, if you do it wrong, you're going to have to pay it back. That is colonial thinking. And so when people become educated and they become angry enough, they already angry because we have a lot of red rage, what I call red rage in our community. And when we can channel that rage, we can release it and we can begin to heal. So that's what we've told the community over and over the last 6 weeks as to help us embark on this healing journey. And I think the second biggest thing, besides the structural violence, secondly, is to recognize what is colonial gatekeeping. And third is the environment. And I think somebody named Stoller said it adequately. They said, as long as Native people continue to live on lands rich in energy resources that the government or corporate interests want, the sexual colonization of Native people will continue. And so we need to ask ourselves, as we fight for the families, our families that have been impacted by MMIW with the coming of the fossil fuel industry, those are issues that affect all families. They primarily, and you know what? MMIW has been here since contact. I think there's a perception that it was a recent issue, but it has been here since the time of contact. And so once we were able to share that with a lot of the people, their energy became able to be channeled, and everybody began became in a unified effort. This afternoon and yesterday and the day before, we asked the tribal government, we asked the Indian Health Service, we asked the treatment centers to get online, post pictures with our t-shirts and tell them to get up to the tribal casino, that our voter table is up there and the race is on and you have to get up there. It was so heart-rending this afternoon to have those young people said, the people are coming in, the people are coming in. And they had this stack of voter registrations. And I came in, the office closed at 5 o'clock Central Time. I came in at 4:20. They came out and they met me and they handed those to me. And I tore down the road. And about 6 miles later, I came to a screech because the highway patrolman was sitting there. There was 3 of them. But I thought about Crazy Horse when they said, become invisible. So I did. And I made it to the auditor's office without getting stopped. But it was so inspiring to do this work on the ground. And you know what? It's going to continue after the election because the healing has to continue. And it is about voting. And it is about the environment. It is about healing. It's about recognized violent structures. But above all, it's about recognizing what parts of colonization that still exist inside of your body, your spirit, and your mind. I have the privilege of working with young people at Braveheart Society that are studying those filters that we have inherited from the genocide that we experienced. And so as we stand in this collective movement that the people in the previous channels were talking, or panel was talking about, I think it's really, really important to embark on the individual healing journey, because when you get into collectives that are largely can be unhealthy, we need to learn how to ask for help, because I can't see what I can't recognize, and you can't take people where you haven't been. And so to me, what that does, it paints an intergenerational picture. We had a picture that we just relished of a young man, an 18-year-old first-time voter. He was holding his ballot and he was smiling and he was proud of himself. And that came on the heels of 2 suicides that happened in our community. And it gave me heart to think we've got to continue praying, healing, providing those doors for these young people to make a difference. And on this day in South Dakota, in Charles Mix County, on Ihanktuan territory, we did make a difference with those young people speeding around and standing there at the doors of the casino and people pouring in. And they're all wearing their t-shirts now. And we're going to continue posting those for the next 2 weeks to get them to the polls. But I think that there are hundreds of experiences like that we can create that are in regard to MMIW. The list is endless. When I was up at Standing Rock and it was coming to the point where people had to leave the camp, one of the reporters asked me, he said, now what are you going to do? And I said, I'm going to return to the list of 100 things that I still have to do. They've been put on hold since Standing Rock. And so everybody's got that list of 100 that we have inherited because of the genocide that occurred. But we cannot do that 100 list unless we are healthy in our mind, body, and spirit, and to know how to ask for help. Because we live in a world that taught us about hierarchy, and hierarchy is from top to bottom. So grassroots work in this voting battle is to turn it sideways and to make a circle. When we make those circles, we've gone back to that collective that you talked about, Camp Circle, where one person in the sacred circle of life is no greater or no less than the person sitting next to them. And you know what? That sounds all poetic and romantic, but it takes a heck of a long time to unlearn what prevents us from doing that. And so I'm pretty excited about, that's why I'm wearing my sunflower earrings. There's a lot of sun to shine, to celebrate, and to laugh, like the young, beautiful Takoja girl that makes us laugh. When I was listening to her, I thought, oh my gosh, I could watch her all day long and listen to her jokes. But I'll treasure the time that I can do that in person when this COVID thing goes where it needs to go. And so I think that I have so many things that I would like to share. I think the other thing is that when we go out on the ground level with grassroots, we have to pay attention to something that I told my young team, is that I said, when you go out and you talk to the communities and you go to a grandma's house, keep in mind that her needs come first. And if you talk, I will ask them to learn the word esoteric. And I said, esoteric means that you know what absentee ballot is. You know what registration. You know what the polls say. So you develop this esoteric language. And when you talk to them, as a PTSD therapist, I have learned from the classroom that when I would stand in front of the classroom and teach the class, and I'd go through the assignment, and I would say, okay, students, I want you to do this. And after you do that, I want you to do this. Now, any questions? They would all be looking at me in a blank manner. And they'd say, can you say that again? And you know what that is? That's a traumatic impact of genocide. That what they were doing, first of all, is they were looking at me to see if I was safe. They have probably come from a situation that wasn't very safe. And if I'm saying this, am I going to hurt them? Am I going to shame them? Am I going to punish them for not following my directions? So I told the team, when you go out into the community, being esoteric is saying it so fast and so hierarchical that they're not going to understand what you're saying, not because they're not smart, but that they have been in situations that have been unsafe. And so very patiently make sure that you're on the same space, which is in the circle of life, that we need them, we support them, and approach it with love. Because I think we have become, and it's really awesome to talk about collective power, but a lot of places out here have been really violent places to live. And being an elder, I'm very conscious of that and aware. And so I'm excited. All of these young people give me hope. And our team, the backbone of our team was the youth. And the elders, we had a 93-year-old supporter. She had her Skoden shirt on, and she was right behind them. So I give thanks this beautiful red day. And I'm honored to be in this lineup. It's the kind of lineup that I want to be in, because I've been in other type of lineups, and I know you all have too. So let's keep it that way. Love you all. Wo Pira Tanka from Tonka Inajiwi Ihanktoha territory. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much to Tui, Faith Spotted Eagle from the Ihanktoa Dakota Nation, where my paternal grandmother and grandfather are from, actually from Greenwood, South Dakota. My grandma, Theodora Feather. So shout out to all my relatives over that way, up in Marty, Lake Andes. Actually, my in-laws are right there, just right there where the casino is, just right there, just like 50 yards from there, right there. That's how we measure distance and, you know, landmarks from the casino, just right over there. Good to be here. Thank you guys so much. Let's see. Get out and vote. If you got, vote locally too, man. Like all this is about the national election, but get out and vote locally, to where that's really going to affect you. Vote for your cousins, whatever, vote twice for your cousins. I don't know who your cousin is, the Great White Father, which one you're going to claim, the Great White Father in the East. But I don't know. Which one's your cousin? I don't know. Biden, maybe. I don't know. Not Trump, though. Not my cousin. Maybe the Crow Nation's cousin. They endorsed him, and some other people. It's up to you. It's your vote. I don't know why they endorsed him. I'm thinking maybe like Trump has some exes there, maybe some baby mamas, maybe he has some kids, around the area. and that they're like, we gotta support our guy. That's our baby's daddy or something like that. I don't know, but that's my only reasoning that somebody could, one of our own people would endorse him. So I don't know. It's up to you. Endorse who you want. It's all you, man. I'm not gonna pick I saw where the fly went the other night on the debate. The sacred fly in our way. When the sacred fly goes and sits on your head for more than 5 minutes, and you do not move him, you know what that means. I'm not going to say it. You know what it means. I'm not going to say it. I'm on bootleg internet here, guys. Things are choppy. I just hooked up to my neighbor's Wi-Fi. This is bootleg. It's borrowed, stolen. I discovered it. I discovered the internet. All right. It's mine now. It's mine. It's all mine. Thank you guys for being here. It's good to be here, man. How many of you guys are out there? Where are you from? Type it in the comments. Where are you representing? Where are you coming out of? What county are you voting out of? What's your county, your town, your city, your res, whatever it is, man. Let us know. We want to know. Engage. Let us know what the happenings is. Is your tribal election already happened, or is it next year? Can't happen at the same time. It's like too much to compete with. Like, oh man, what's going on, man? Hard times out here. Hard times, just like Amber mentioned earlier. Our ancestors been through it. Shoot, this year we're going through it, man. Ran out of toilet paper. Hard times. Hard times. Scarred from that. I mean, literally. I mean, no toilet paper. Had to use like cardboard. Start taking apart books. Good for you if you had magazines, man. Like, lucky you. Toilet paper shortage was crazy. That's what I remember. Scarred from that, man. But we're gonna keep moving here with our agenda. Man, we got so many awesome people that are lined up. So many talented representatives and activists, and we're gonna move on here with our next panel. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? I gotta wait 15 seconds because there's the delay. So if you're ready, type it in. Our next panelist is a Native youth powering the Native vote panel. Man, our panelists are going to be Mr. Joey Montoya, Quanah Rose, and Jade Begay. Heck yeah. I want to bring in our moderator. Please welcome your moderator for the next panel, Shateska Martinez.
What's good? Peace, everybody. Qualite otlak, nanatoka Shuteska Tonatiu. My name is Shuteska. A people are the Mexica peoples, Xochimilca, from Mexico Tenochtitlan, from Xochimilco, Mexico. Grateful to be a part of this event. Grateful to NDN Collective for helping hold space, open up the doors for lots of incredible discussion and dialogue around voting. Really excited to be welcoming some incredible panelists, friends of mine, and other relatives that are doing great work, mobilizing, connecting with young people. So yeah, I guess let's just kick off this panel, having each person introduce themselves, just really briefly, a little bit, your name, what organization or company you're working with, and yeah, something that let's start off. Quanah, why don't you kick us off?
Shojit Quanah, Chasing Horse Shojit. I'm Hamguchin in Lakota Sioux. I am from Eagle Village, Alaska, and the Rosebud Reservation, but I currently live here in Fairbanks, Alaska. I'm 18 years old, and I am a climate justice advocate, along with our Indigenous rights here in Alaska. So yeah, thank you.
Go ahead, Joey.
What up? My name is Joey Montoya. I'm Lipan Apache from Texas, but grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco, California. I'm the CEO and founder of Urban Native Era.
Fire. And Jade?
Hey everybody, my name is Jade Gotv. I am creative director with the NDN Collective, and I am Dina and Tasique Pueblo, calling from Santa Fe, New Mexico.
Awesome. Great. Well, let's dive right into it. I appreciate y'all taking a moment to be with us today. I think I'm gonna start here. I've seen the topic of voting be a rather divisive issue in some of our communities and some conversations. I know that there's a lot of trauma connected to engaging in the US political system for many of our relatives. I think divisiveness in Indigenous communities is absolutely a tool of the colonizer to keep us from realizing our liberation. What have y'all seen? How do you feel that voting and this level of political engagement can be a tool to unify our people? And why is it important for us to see this as a moment to come together rather than as something to argue upon? And obviously everyone has different opinions, and that's totally cool. But I think, yeah, what are your thoughts on that? What have y'all seen in your communities, and how do you think we can make this conversation something that brings our people together? And Joy, you want to start off?
Yeah, I'll start off. Well, first and foremost, I think it's just so hard to participate in just a system that wasn't, initially designed for us overall. So for me, it's like, it was kind of difficult at first, even when I was a little bit younger. I'm only 26, but when I was a little bit younger, just navigating this system and being really frustrated with it. But learning, this is going to be my third election that I'm participating in. I know that for me, I need to kind of show up for my community and show up for, our ancestors that continue to fight and have fought for us to be here and continue to do this. But there's actually, what I feel is like, this is a time where we continue to build power. And voting is part of that. It's for us to continue to build that power. It's not where initially all the work is done, but it's where we show up and we build that power. So I'm really excited to participate for this one. But yeah, I think this is where we show up. This is where we, get our friends, get motivated and kind of just show up for our communities and other communities as well.
Sure, absolutely. Either of you wanna add something to that as well?
Sure, I can go, and I think it's exciting. I am definitely on the elder youth spectrum, and not as young as all of you, sprightly youngsters. No, just kidding. I am excited about the youth vote, and I'm excited about this event. And recently, I've been working on a podcast with NDN Collective, the Go Vote Den podcast, and it really is targeted to our peers, our millennial peers, because when you look at the data, the native, I should say the youth vote in the U.S. accounts for half of the voting population, and then similarly, the Native youth vote makes up about 40% of the American Indian Alaskan Native population. So when you look at it at that way, or from that perspective, the youth vote is really, really important for shifting political power and creating more change, towards our progressive movements, our decolonial visions, our decolonial dreams, and hopes for our communities. So I'm really excited about the ways in which the youth vote, the Native youth vote especially, can be a force where we bring our peers together and just create some more awareness about that power of our vote. Like you were saying, Shitezgad and Joey, yeah, it's complicated. It's not black and white, this issue of voting. It's hard to grapple with a system that hasn't been designed for us, or hasn't benefited us, or listened to our communities or our voices historically. But what we know is from data, from polling, is that the more you vote, the more elected officials actually have to listen to you. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and I'm really excited for just building that momentum this year, 2020, but also, continuing that momentum way beyond 2020 and into the future.
Absolutely. Kwana, would love your thoughts if you have anything to add.
Yeah, of course. Just thinking about, unity, it's can be difficult sometimes. There are a lot of, people in the way our system works. Like we have said, it wasn't meant for us. It wasn't meant to benefit us. And right now we're in a time where youth are rising. And I feel extremely blessed and honored to be a part of, this movement and seeing how much unity there is. Here in Alaska, for instance, we have a lot of division only because of the corporations that seem to really, and including some of our own corporations, which was really sad, they seem to start advocating for, not for our own people, but for the system that seems to harm us. So, seeing our youth rise and people really start educating themselves on these issues and, how our vote can really change that is beautiful. I think here in Alaska, I'm seeing a lot of Indigenous youth really start using their voices, and I love to see it. I'm here for it. And, with how things are going right now and how critical it is and how, we are really depending on everyone to vote, it really does change my way of seeing things. It changed how I saw, our government in a way. There's a lot of things that came out of the shadows and a lot of things that we started to put a light on that were in the dark for way too long. And I started to realize that, it's my future. It's our future generations. And I think we need to start really coming together. And I love to see, our people coming together in these spaces, even virtually, and speaking and sharing our stories in a way so that we can come together stronger. We are stronger together. And I love to see the unity. And I definitely feel like we need more of it, but it is a great start.
Definitely. I think we can all agree that young people, and specifically Indigenous youth, will play a very significant role in shaping the future. And I know that all of y'all have different ways in which you've approached that work. Joey, I know that you reach your audience, through apparel, through designing apparel that has really powerful stories woven into the clothes that you're sharing with your community, the events that y'all throw. Jade Begay with your podcast, and the work that you're doing with Go Vote Den, and Kwana with your climate organizing. I guess I would just love a little bit to hear a little more kind of about what are the different ways that y'all see our movements adapting to continue to engage young people up into this election and actually through it as well, because I think a lot of us are looking at the long-term vision, right? Is this election is a tactic towards our collective liberation that will continue forward. What are some of the different ways that y'all are working with your projects, with the different organizations you represent within your communities to really capture and uplift young people's voices? Whoever wants to take that can go ahead and start us off.
You got it, Jade? You want me to hold it down a little bit? Cool. Well, actually, it's quite interesting because I was just thinking about even just hearing Deb Holland and Sharice Davis, and I was just thinking about yes, that's what we want to see. We want to see people in the system and be there. So I can't wait to see how this election and just moving forward, seeing more Native folks, young Native folks in office, because I think that representation is really important. But we actually just dropped like Urban Native Era, and what we do as a brand and as a collective is to really share different art pieces that kind of help empower that. So we actually just released, I voted on the native land stickers. And if you ever heard about Urban Native Era, you've probably seen the You're on Native Land design on like many hats and apparel. But I think this is like something where we can kind of own it. Like, this is ours. Like, this election could be ours. And really rallying up a lot of young folks with that, and just people feeling really like proud to go in and vote. And I'm actually just super excited because I really can't wait to look at the data after this as well, and see how many youth, Native youth voted, and see how many Native folks participated in this vote. But those are just some of the ways that we're just trying to continue to elevate and encourage people to participate in this election, and using this as just one tool. And then from there, it's working on other groundwork where, you know, all of us are doing individually in different levels. So I think from there, it's encouraging folks to pay attention, to learn more about what's happening around us and how we can really engage on different levels, or even just at a base level, it's just being knowledgeable of what's happening in our communities and other communities as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Joy. Kwana, you want to talk a little bit about the work you're doing?
Yeah, of course. So I am a part of the Gwich'in Youth Council. It was put on 1 year ago by the Gwich'in Steering Committee. It is a nonprofit, and we do a lot of work that includes protecting our sacred land, so the Arctic Wildlife Refuge, and how it ties into the climate crisis here in Alaska and missing and murdered Indigenous women. So we really focus on, you know, how our lands are being attacked, which includes our people are being attacked. So a lot of my work focuses around the Arctic Wildlife Refuge, and I really started to recognize how impacted we are up here in Alaska. You know, we have the oil and gas industry, and how our corporations started to depend on that. And it, you know, I started to realize that, you know, our own corporations are really starting to realize that, well, I feel like they didn't realize, but I think they're going to realize that, you know, youth right now is rising, and we need to start, you know, amplifying youth voices. And so my work started, you know, last year when I joined the Gwich'in Youth Council, and later on, me and my little sister wrote a climate state of emergency resolution here at AFN, the Alaska Federation of Natives. It's when all of our tribes, all over Alaska, come together and we speak about the issues and a lot of new things coming up in the new year, and how we can all unify together and work on these things. And when I really started to realize that, you know, a lot of our communities are divided because of our own corporations. So, you know, we need to start moving away from that and start coming together and start battling these issues. And so with my climate justice work, I would go out into the lands every year. We go hunting and we go fishing. We live our ways of life. And I started realizing these changes from a young age, growing up and seeing how it is affecting us. We would get 160 salmon a year. Now we're only getting nine or 10. And we're seeing how the lands are changing, how it's affecting our own way of food security. And so, you know, seeing how it's greatly affecting our people, and that really opened my eyes and made me realize that, you know, being a young person right now is really important, because, you know, right now, during this election, it's going to be my first time voting. I'm extremely excited. And, you know, with a lot of these issues, we need to start focusing on how we are able to share with our youth, but also include our youth, even the ones that aren't able to vote. We need to start making sure that they're educated as well. So yeah, that has been my big thing, is educating youth and sharing and amplifying.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important to think about those that do not have the ability to engage in the political system in this way, whether it's incarcerated relatives who have been stripped of their right to vote, or our immigrant indigenous relatives who don't have the ability to vote. But the implications of these elections and of these different political systems really have a significant impact on our communities. This is a really beautiful conversation. I think we're just about at its time. Just one last thank you to everybody who participated. Grateful for your time and energy. Do we have time for one more brief little, if anybody wants to respond? I was just curious on what your feelings are, like moving forward, like past election, like the day after the election, like what is your vision for how we can continue to build like sovereign futures as Native peoples? And why is it important for us as youth to be a part of that? If anybody has just some quick thoughts on that before we close up.
Stay connected, definitely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then, just, speaking from like the perspective of NDN Collective, like continuing to build models that support youth in their efforts that, are to protect land or the climate. We have a lot of great programs that, really invest in young folks, but people just in general. And I think that's something that we just need to see across the board is philanthropy and other movements really supporting our Indigenous youth and lifting them up and giving them the resources and the tools to be able to do the work that you are all doing. And so, I'm excited to continue that with all of you, hopefully into the future, and just continue to do strong like narrative media work that features people like you. Staying connected, supporting each other, resourcing each other. I think that's how we build that that vision we all have for a decolonial and progressive future for land back and all of the movements that we're a part of right now.
Let's go vote then. All right, thank y'all so much. Thank you, NDN Collective, Joey. Wanna have a beautiful day and keep up the great work. Joey.
Yo, Shio, Holiday Simmons, Dakwadama, G, Salage, Ale, Black folks from the Mississippi Delta, Uwechi, Mary Dot Simmons, and John Simmons. What's up, y'all? I'm Holiday Simmons from the Cherokee people and Black folks from the Mississippi Delta. I'm the son of Mary Dot Simmons and John Simmons. Now let's get it. Let's go. Let's go. Let's GOVOTESKODEN. Do you know what we in? I said GOVOTESKODEN. Do you know what we in? Damn, man, chill. We ain't single issue people fighting single issue issues. And not nary nobody said that to cast a ballot, to participate in electoral politics was the way, the only way. So what? You're not going to get a driver's license either? Not going to cash that stimulus check? Gonna wait till Trump puts a cap in your per cap? We got to participate and demonstrate. Beat them at their own game, then round them up towards our way. Capitalism is too fast, too fast, too fast. We can practice a radical slow and still rush to the polls, take back our relatives who are Black and unenrolled, go ahead and increase our collective roles, sniff our collective rose, minding this nation's soul, and steady playing our powerful role as prophecy keepers and sovereign seekers. Hey, my people! Remember the condor and the eagle? The sun is setting and it appears as though justice is snowed in. Nothing left to do but vote, pray, and scode in. I know that reparations can include rest, and the most accessible decolonial thing we can do is to take a radical pause, a righteous breath. Still we gotta GOVOTESKODEN. Do you know what we in? Let's strike the hammer while the iron is hot. More voices than ever are hearing our call. They are humming our songs. The world is starting to remember, and come on back to these ways. Let's spark the torch even more, shall we? I smell fire, 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 gentrifiers, fire, fire, colonizers. Your ways and your world are burning up, bruh, like a submarine-sized smudge stick. And us voting is just wafting that smoke over our heads, just wafting that vote over these feds. So, hey, my people, remember the condor and the eagle. The sun is setting, and it appears as though justice is snowed in. Nothing left to do but vote, pray, and scode in. So go on now, go on get. Go GOVOTESKODEN. Do you know what we in? I said GOVOTESKODEN. Do you know what we in? Let's get it. Oh yeah, I'm gonna need that land back.
Hi, my name is Natalie Landreth. I'm a senior staff attorney at the Native American Rights Fund. I'm also a citizen of the Chickasaw Nation and an in-court litigator on voting issues. I'm definitely not one of the youth vote that people have been talking about today. That's not why I'm here. Consider me more like your auntie who's seen some battles and would like to share some advice with you. We at the Native American Rights Fund have one message for you, and that message is there is no such thing as not voting. Choosing not to vote is itself a choice. It's a choice to give your power to someone else to decide for you. It's a choice to give in to someone else's view of you and how you should live your life. It's a choice that says, you choose for me, I don't care, as though you're deciding on a flavor of ice cream. And it's a really dangerous choice because that person might not have your best interests at heart, frankly care about you at all. We get it. We understand. We've heard folks describe both on the internet and here and other places as a colonialist system and one that they didn't want to participate in. We respect your views. We see that this is not a system that our nations necessarily created, but one placed upon us. And there are different views on that. We hear you. But in 2017, NARF helped complete a study that showed voter turnout in tribal elections is 20 points higher than in federal and state elections. This is because tribal members feel more a part of their own system than they do this other system and simply trusted their own governments more. It is also because for years, states gave insulting and degrading tests to Native Americans, forcing them to prove that they were competent or civilized enough to vote. This propaganda was designed to make Native believe that they had no place in the American political system. That Native communities feel disconnected from state and federal government is not a surprise to anyone who has paid any attention to history or modern federal Indian policy. It's also a lie. Native Americans have every right to vote and every right to use all the power that comes along with voting to protect Native American sovereignty. Over the past few years, I've had the opportunity to speak at a number of events, large and small, about the work that we do at NARF's Voting Project. And the stories I share with people are so bad that half the time people come up to me afterwards and say, is that true, what you just talked about? Yeah, it's always true. Let me tell you about some of these things that I've seen and how we fix them through the system. It's true that in some villages in Alaska, they have to drag their ballot box across a frozen river for people on the other side to vote for an hour. It's true that when NARF brought its first voting case in 2007, Alaska had never implemented the Voting Rights Act for all the people that speak native languages. When we asked them what translations they had produced for the largest native language speaking population in the United States, they handed me a CD with 2 30-second recordings, 60 seconds. That's all they had to show for 35 years of the Voting Rights Act. Yes, that it's true in the following case, poll workers in native villages, we found out, were making 12 cents an hour. Cents, not dollars, cents. Yes, it's true that voters in South Dakota in one polling place were forced to stoop and vote in a dirty chicken coop after begging the county for a polling place for almost a decade. Yes, it's true that recently a man in South Dakota walked 12 miles to register, only to watch the woman at the registration office throw his form into the trash can right in front of him because he didn't have a street address, and she considered him not qualified, quote unquote. Yes, it's true that homeless veterans in North Dakota could not vote because they could not afford the IDs that they needed under the new suppression law. It's true that Native Americans in Northern California were told they could not register to vote in a certain county because they lived in mobile homes and were therefore, quote, not permanent residents in the eyes of the law. Yes, it's true that Native Americans in Wisconsin polling place had to vote inside of a sheriff station for a while the deputies inside ran the plates on their cars. It's true that armed deputies sometimes stand in the doorways of polling places in South Dakota, occasionally with a hand on a gun. We even have pictures of that one. The good news, after all of this bad news, is that these things were all addressed. Not necessarily just by NARF, although some of these are our cases, but by our partners and our allies across Indian country. And how did we do that? Because we fought, because we said no to these things. The court system is also part of that other system that we've been talking about. And we as lawyers at NARF have to deal with it every single day. And we do it because sometimes we win. And it's more often than you might think. We won a case just last week for Arctic Village for voting rights in Alaska, and a couple of weeks before for the tribes in Montana. When we do win, we turn that system to our own advantage. Imagine if those fighting pipelines or voter suppression or trying to enforce treaties said, well, I could sue, but I just refuse to take part of that system. What would happen? Well, there would be more pipelines, more voter suppression, no one to enforce the treaties. The poll workers in Alaska would still be making 12 cents an hour. Some people in South Dakota would still be voting in chicken coops. There would be no ballots in Yupik and Gwich'in, which there are now in Alaska, thanks to Arctic Village and Venati. Our point is that all of these tribes, all of these people chose to fight these laws. Our point is that you have to fight. Choosing not to vote is choosing to sit out this battle, which is exactly what they want you to do. Because lower voter turnout in Indian country means less power for tribes, less power for Indian people. That is the perfect result for people who would oppress the tribes, deny them resources, break treaties, and suppress your vote. That's what they want you to do, so don't do it. So we hear you, we feel you when you talk about the system, the challenges, the problems, and how some people don't want to participate. And we know it can be really hard to vote. When you encounter those challenges, we want you to tell us about it because we have your back. There are 6 lawyers here that do that. The Native American Voting Rights Coalition, which NARF works on with other organizations and Indian advocates across the country. If you have problems in the next couple of weeks, you hear about things, you see things that you want us to look at, there are 2 places to go. One, email vote@narf.org. It's a special email box just for voting problems this election. or you can call a nationwide hotline available to all people on reservation or off, whether you're urban Indian, reservation Indian, 1-866-OUR-VOTE, 1-866-OUR-VOTE. We look at those. This is the work that we do, our service to Indian country, and we have your back. But we humbly ask that you also have ours. We want you to think about it in this way. Vote because they don't want you to. Vote as an act of rebellion, and vote to take back the power. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for having me today.
Wow, that was good, Natalie. Thank you. You definitely encouraged me. I was in there making some spaghetti for the fam really quick, and I was like, yes, yes. Just in there, just kind of giving me some leelies too. I'm just like, speak. Just kidding. No, really though, it's really inspiring and really empowering. And I also want to give a shout out to Native Era. Urban Native Era. I don't know what's going on, but thank you guys. You guys sounded really good. I'm not gonna butcher your name, but Joey and friends, Joey and Juana and Jade and Martinez. I don't know how to say your first name, but you guys did so good. A lot of knowledge, and I'm really thankful for all of your input. And also that music by Holiday Simmons. Thank you for that. That was awesome. I was trying to sing along. I was like, My daughter's like, who is that? It's like, it's Holiday Simmons. But anyways, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, the third panel, next speakers. Oh wait, before I introduce them, I also wanted to give a shout out to Faith Spotted Eagle. Oh my gosh, I think I found myself my new auntie, my Hunka auntie. Wow, I felt so empowered and moved by everything that you shared and educated us with. I was like, oh, I'm gonna message her right after this. I'm gonna call auntie right now after this. Tui Faith. Seriously though, all of these names are names to remember. I'm definitely going to go on all my social medias after this and add all of you guys, because this has been nothing but empowering for me. And I just want to thank everyone for coming and joining and watching, and everyone who is asked to speak here today. It's so important. I know what you guys got asked. I'm like, okay. All right, so I want to introduce the third panel, Indigenous organizers on the front lines of climate and environmental justice, Bernadette and Nivea. Anyways, I'm excited. Thank you guys for joining us, and here they are.
Oh.
Creature.
Okay.
Apparently I was muted again. All right, gonna do this a third time. Yaat e shik e do shidine shi e shandin cedar yinishie. Hello, my people and my family. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Shandine Cedar, she, her, originally from Flagstaff, Arizona. If there are any people from Arizona, please put in the chat and let me feel for it. I am originally from the Navajo Nation, and for the past 6 years, I've worked in the clean tech and sustainability industry, working with the world's largest corporations to help transform them into climate allies. I'm also a Natives Outdoors ambassador, working to elevate the Native and Indigenous people in the outdoors. So really excited to be partnering with the NDN Collective on this event. I am very pleased to dive into a conversation with our panelists today. We will be having a discussion at the intersection of climate and environmental justice and voting. So with that, I'd love our panelists to briefly introduce ourselves. We have about 15 minutes. Tell us a little bit about your work, and also who is your favorite Indigenous political leader? And also everyone that's watching, put in the chat who your favorite Indigenous political leader is as well. Wahela, do you want to go first?
Sure. NDN Collective and Native Outdoors, thank you for this really important gathering virtual event. I'm Salt Clan, Ashihin Nishlin. I'm from Black Mesa region in northeastern Arizona, and I also live in Oakland, California as well. And I'm happy to be here. And I'm also an NDN Collective board member.
Awesome. Iria, do you want to go next? Yes, Kualito Nali. Plasukamati for having me on here. I'm trying to also make sure that, because I'm holding my phone, I'm making sure that I can be centered. My name is Nidia Alicia. I am a climate justice, environmental justice, racial justice, all the justices kind organizer. And it's an honor to be here today with all of these amazing, beautiful Indigenous sisters. So thank you for having me. Thank you. Bernadette?
Jungunzi Shalak Nai Shoji Bernadette Dementif Oji, Puchajakotan Eastly. I just said, good afternoon, my relatives. My name is Bernadette Dementif, and I'm from Fort Yukon, Alaska, which is 8 miles above the Arctic Circle. I thank you so much for inviting me to be a part of this, and I'm very honored to be sitting amongst you ladies.
Awesome. Yeah, I feel so empowered today just watching all of the other panelists and keynoters and music. I'm just so excited. So just to kick off the conversation, I just have an open question for everyone. And I feel this theme through the past sessions as well in different forms. So as we know, a lot of Native people are exhausted with the political and legislative process, to be fair, right? And I just want to know from you guys, talking to those folks directly who are watching or going to watch the live stream afterwards, they might be on the fence, they might have given up completely. What would you tell them to inspire action and engagement in this election cycle?
This is Bernadette. I would just remind them that there was a time that we were not able to vote, and that our ancestors fought for us to have that right. And that our voice, one of the most powerful tools that we have is our voice. And that by voting, we are using it. And so that we should take every opportunity to vote. Don't just listen to what other people are telling you, but do your own research.
Yeah, absolutely. Wahila, do you want to go next?
Sure. I think it's the least that people can do and be engaged. It's, I learned a lot about the political process in Navajo Nation just based off protecting our groundwater, based off understanding, the history of where I came from. And that required a lot of my research, like Bernadette said, but also it also an awareness of how interconnected we are. Like it or not, everything is political. Where you live, what tribe you're from, what type of shoes you buy. There's this with globalization, we are all connected and everything's highly political. And voting is just one part of how we can participate to create change and have an impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything's connected.
Can I go next? I just wanted to roll
absolutely.
up what these two beautiful sisters were just saying, So I am Chicana, and my ancestors are from so-called Mexico in Chihuahua and Michoacan, Purepecha and Raramuri. And I think a lot of times we get so caught up here in the States about, I'm not going to vote because I want to, I don't believe in the colonized processes. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. But sometimes we get too caught up in how to make a statement in that way, and we forget to think like Bernadette was saying, that a lot of indigenous folks, we have the opportunity to vote because of the tireless effort of our ancestors and the people before us who said we need to be included. Our voices need to be heard. And beyond these colonial borders of this nation state, we also need to consider all of our indigenous brothers and sisters in other parts of the world, Central America, South America, Africa, Asia, Europe, who look at our elections closely because our outcomes here politically have consequences for them. And so I want to invite us to consider that, the fact that we have millions of undocumented Native peoples here in U.S. territory who have been pushed out because of foreign policy passed by this government. That is why I'm voting in this coming election. Not because I believe in the system, 528 years, it has not worked for us, but because I know that the consequences of inaction are greater than me just mailing a ballot right back in. Boom, 3 minutes, done. Once you do your research to make sure that that you are supporting the person that is closest to our values. Because no political party right now, I would say, represents our community's priorities to a T. However, it is important that we honor the sacrifice of folks before us who have put in that effort for us to be able to go and vote, and that we think about all of the indigenous people around the world and who don't have political power here within the U.S. State, and make sure that if we don't want to do it for ourselves, that we do it for them.
Yeah, that's such a great point about the world looking to our elections as an example of how this should work, and especially as Native Indigenous people. That's a really interesting point. So my next question kind of stems off of this. This is for you, Wahala. People want to throw their hands up, but your work suggests that the system can't work. Can you tell us a little bit about your groundbreaking legislative victories?
Yeah, I think similar to this gathering, everything is collective. I think I've been a part of a collective movement of a number of circles, Indigenous peoples, people of color, the marginalized, really working united to elevate simple protections of water, of clean air, clean neighborhoods, so we can be able to enjoy life. Unfortunately, over 500 years, we have a big mess, a big climate mess. And it's going to take each and every one of us to really be engaged in creating solutions. And I don't believe it's just one political leader is going to do that either. I think a lot of the movements you've seen in Indigenous communities have been led by collective of people and all in generations, but also men and women. It's not been mostly just men. And I think for women, we've always had a strong voice in the way that we shape our world because we're caretakers of this land. We're caretakers of our family. We're caretakers of always praying for the future generations. And that's something that I love to participate in. I want to encourage you all to engage in this process collectively with your family, with your cousins, with your parents, with your grandparents, because I hear stories, even just asking your father, your mother, your grandmother, what does voting mean to them? And they'll tell you, our relatives used to ride long distance horseback just to vote. And I think, and we've participated in a lot of wars, and our people here in our own homeland couldn't even vote. And I think there's a lot of history already where enough information for us to get out there. And there's hope in it. I mean, yes, there's lots of setbacks politically. Sometimes things don't go our way, but you cannot, for me, what I've learned is you just got to be persistent, because I do see good. I do see good in shaping policies and a vision and values that are aligned with our Indigenous values that can be good for our communities. And this all goes back to our language. This all goes back to our cultural understanding and connection, interconnection to our Mother Earth and all living things that helps to guide us on how we can get on a path of sustainability, of that regenerative living, and of that interconnectedness. And I think that that's really powerful. And I really want to encourage all of you to get out and vote, because it's fun. We make it fun. I mean, I come from a community where families live miles away from each other, and voting day, people come from all over and see each other and visit. And so I think there are ways to be creative to make voting fun.
Yeah, it's a celebration of power. And yeah, I just love that. Bernadette, my question is for you next. So as probably most of us know, this year, the current administration finalized plans to open the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge up for oil and gas development. I would just love for you to just bring us all up to speed on what's happening now and, what needs to happen for success for your work.
Sure. So, the Gwich'in have always protected the calving grounds. That is a sacred land to us. And since Trump's administration opened it in 2017, it has been one thing after another. They have been totally dismissing our concerns. They don't even put us into their reports. Our elders, which is our scientists, tell us that this is the wrong thing to do. We had the House of Representatives, we reversed the law there, and that was a good, another good thing. We're also having, we had a virtual gathering, and then we have our Arctic Indigenous Climate Summit report coming out this week, I'm hoping. But it just talks about, right now we have the leadership in Alaska does not respect Indigenous values. Our land is our store. We are spiritually, culturally connected to the land, to the water, and to the animals. And this is something that our leadership don't, recognize. They will put on a cussbuck, or they will, put on one of our native gear when they need, when voting comes around. But that's about the only time that we see them. We have 33 coastal communities falling into the ocean, and dead fish in our rivers and our lakes because it's so warm. We're thawing 3 times faster than the rest of the world. And we literally have dead birds falling out of the sky from starvation. And, I just want to encourage the Alaska Natives to not just Alaska Natives, but all of us, we need to vote. This is our homelands. The decisions that we make today is going to impact our children. And we need to be showing our children that voting is important and that, you know, it's hard to defend 40,000 years of history in 5 minutes, but we still do it. And you know what? We will never give up. Giving up is not an option. And, you know, voting is one way that we can get back our land, our rights, and we have to use it. Some people don't have that right. Some people don't have the right to, we do. And we need to, we really need to use it. We need to, I don't like to use the word power, but it's empowering when you see, like, just us four right here talking and speaking. We're doing it on behalf of the people that we love. We are doing it for our animals that cannot tell us that they are sick. They can't tell us that they are starving. And so we use our voice for them. And that is important. And that is, you know, I just want to say, like, wait, vote. Wait, native vote.
I love that. Yes. And I love that your story also like solidifies a very concrete example of what it means for frontline communities for climate impact and environmental impact. Like, for anyone that doesn't know, frontline communities are those that experience the consequences of climate change and environmental degradation and pollution first and with the most intensity. So the Gwich'in people, the 32 communities that you mentioned, that is a key. That's just like, that's it. That's here. Climate change is real. It's affecting us now. So I love that. That's a great example of that. So Niria, my next question is for you. So especially this year, we've talked, the whole world and the States has talked a lot about social justice work, and there's been a lot of awesome things that have been happening with Black Lives Matter and stuff like that. But I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what does climate justice mean to you, and how does that drive your work?
Thank you. This is Nidia speaking. So, I mean, climate justice is just like the new big umbrella of all of the justices, you know, and ultimately climate justice is really what it means is land back ASAP and oceans back ASAP. And that was one of the powerful messages that there was an Indigenous youth contingency that went to the UN this past December for COP25. And that was one really powerful moment to see all of the beautiful Indigenous youth from all over the world. And we were on the streets in Spain, you know. I was like, oh, take that, Spanish ancestors. But, you know, and it is, you know, like when I think about climate justice, you know, we have so many names for that, because what we really just need is to have return to the land and return to our traditional ways and pay reparations to our Black brothers and sisters and non-gender conforming relatives, and really just return the land to the rightful stewards, because that is the only way that we're going to be able to survive with what is coming. I mean, here, you know, I was sharing a little bit earlier about how our hometown, we just watched our hometowns burn down here. I'm here in Southern Oregon. Originally, I reside in Ohlone territory, Oakland, California was good. But in September 8th, we had the Alameda fire tear through 3,000 structures, and more than 3,000 households lost their home. And We know that all of the wildfires that have been happening, more than 5 million acres have burnt up in California and Oregon and the West Coast. And that's because of the criminalization of indigenous land management practices. So that's what I mean when climate justice really just means land back, because we know that if indigenous led land management and restoration projects were actually being given the platform, the funding, the political power to care for Mother Earth in the rightful way, we wouldn't be dealing with this. And in fact, we would be mitigating that, you know, because we're already at a point where so much, you know, like our sister here was saying, Alaska's thawing already. And the only way we will be able to minimize that will be through returning land back to the rightful stewards.
Yeah, that's so powerful. We're getting close to time here, but I have a quick question for all of you. Just keep it quick. What are we not talking about right now and in our communities that we should be talking about? Miria, I think you were muted for a second.
Okay, yeah, sorry, I was like, that was a big question. Thank God I was muting because I was thinking out loud. But I think I think what we're not talking about is that I mean, well, I think this is more of like what I want to say is like us voting does not mean that we are validating this system. You know, we get in our cars to get from point A to point B because public transportation sucks. And that doesn't mean that we condone the fossil fuel industry. We shop sometimes at Walmart or these horrible corporations because we can't afford to go anywhere else. And that doesn't mean that we condone and that we are giving our stamp of approval to Walmart. It means that we are either put in a position where we cannot choose otherwise. And that's what I want to say to all of our people right now, because I do have a lot of folks who are so disheartened and like so struck by grief that we just like, we don't want to participate in this colonial system anymore. And I say, do it because, you know, like my mom says, no se nos va a caer nada en 3 minutos de mandar un papel. Like, we ain't gonna lose nothing. 3 minutes, just boom, send that ballot in. And we have to vote and we have to continue to organize and we have to continue to plant our seeds. We have to continue to do our work. Voting is not the end. It is just one tool of how we are going to bring about change.
Right. It's not the end all be all.
I would just like to say that, you know, climate change doesn't care what color you are. It doesn't care if you're black, brown, if you're rich or poor, that we are all going to be negatively impacted. And it's time that we start sticking our differences aside and coming together, because the decisions we make, our children are going to be living in it. And I do not want my grandchildren to be struggling to survive because I failed to use my voice when I had the chance. So I say, you know, use your voice, use the vote, get out and vote.
I would say organize. I mean, that's the biggest thing, is that I've learned how to have an impact in a small community, but also in a larger context. I think there just needs to be more organizers, and even just like learning how to organize is so fun. And I think the other piece is around what do we want? What do we want for our communities? How do we want to live? And what's next? And I do think that investment in our communities is key. Investment in Bernadette's community is key, because her community knows what they need to be able to, be able to be healthy, and for her children, her great grandchildren, and all of us. And I think that that's the key part, is really forming this beautiful vision together, collectively, but also in a united way, getting our people together on the same page to organize. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to participate, and I'm excited for all of you that are watching. And I really want to say how grateful I am to NDN Collective for helping to put this event on. It's really powerful. And if we can continue to do this and inspire each other and be there for each other, it goes a long way. And I just want to say I'm really happy that I was able to connect to Bernadette and how do you say your name?
It's Nidia Alicia, but you could call me Near. You can call me Near, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I was like, wow, that's a beautiful name, but I might butcher it. And Shunding too. Finally meet you. So thank you all.
Yeah.
Can I quote the elder really quick? We just had our first Arctic Indigenous Climate Summit last June, and Stephen Frost was 87, and he took a 12-hour boat ride to come down to this summit to tell us enough with the meetings, enough with the talkings. It's time to get active. And he just passed away last month. And so he said, you know, we meet a lot, we do a lot, but what are we, you know, we get active. So I just wanted to share that. And the Arctic Indigenous Climate Summit report will be coming out this week. Well, if you guys want one, send me a message and I'll send you one. It's 42 pages long. People from all over. It's amazing.
Awesome. Well, I am feeling super empowered. We are strategic, we are native, and we're coming for the system. So with that, thank you so much, Wahela, Bernadette, and Nidia. Please, everyone that's watching, please follow and amplify the work of these amazing leaders, please. And of course, go vote, no excuses. And then once you vote, keep your leaders accountable. All right. With that, we're done. We'll see you guys at the polls.
Thank you.
Bonjour, Indigenous-led, Mike Jordan. Hello, my name is Mike Jordan, Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe Tribe in Belko, North Dakota. Here today, very excited to be a part of the NDN Collective, NativesOutdoors, SCO Vote Then, virtual Intertribal, Get Out the Vote event. I just want to just say a few words before I perform this piece here, but I remember the day after Trump got elected and that feeling that was felt. It was real. And I know I didn't just feel it. A lot of people, around Indian country felt it too. And one way that I would describe it would be that it was a dark cloud that came over us, kind of like a storm. And, just like a storm, there are, the sun shines after. And I truly believe that that's why it's so important for us to get out and vote, to help the sun shine through this darkness and through this dark time. Make our voice heard. But this song that I'd like to perform is called The Storm. I hope y'all enjoy. Chimagwech, my name is Mike Jordan. Lately life's been testing me, trying to really get the best of me. My mental's always been an enemy, so I push it aside like energy. Everything that I'm going through, I'm building strength to continue. Gotta look at life with a new view. I'm taking off of this rear view like, no looking back, cause I'm looking forward. Got me looking towards a better tomorrow. Think we all blessed to see tomorrow. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? It'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. When it rains, it pours. That's what you call a storm. That's what you call a storm, yeah. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? It'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. When it rains, it pours. That's what you call a storm. That's what you call a storm, yeah. I'm I'm better now. So the sun came out, made some mistakes, but it's all good now. Got knocked down, but I got back up. Had to find myself, I was lost in the clouds. Now I'm on the ground, dancing in the rain, in a better place, feeling like I'm safe. Everything is gonna be okay. You gotta rise above it, that's a levitate. Always finding peace when I meditate. Now I ride through the storm, yeah, that's a wave. Cause life's a trip, but don't need a trip. Just move on and get over it. We all gotta live this life's a gift, so I'ma give it all I gotta give. And when the storm hits, that's perfect. It's a perfect storm and I'm surfing waves. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? It'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. When it rains, it pours. That's what you call a storm. That's what you call a storm, yeah. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to say? It'll get better, it'll get better, it'll get better. When it rains, it pours. That's what you call a storm. That's what you call a storm, yeah. When the rain falls down on me, gonna let it rain, gonna let it rain on me. When the rain falls down on me, let it rain on me, yeah. That's what you call a storm. 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 Chimagwech, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Remember, get out and vote. It's important.
Wow. Thank you, Mike Jordan, man. Holy cow. That was amazing. Everybody give it up. Give it up in the comments. Hearts, likes, comment for my man, Mike Jordan, with the flows for your soul. That was amazing. Oh man, I was grooving, Mike. I was feeling it. My cheeks, you know, I was doing that dance. Everybody squeeze your cheeks. These ones, not these ones. You know, squeeze those cheeks. You can dance right in your chair, you know, if you've been sitting a while. Man, I was feeling it. Thank you so much, man. Heck yeah. Shout out to him. It is, man, this is amazing. This is enlightening. I feel like the conversation is just elevated every time, man, and just feeling empowered. So thank you guys, man, so much. Everybody that's coming on here, everybody that's watching, everybody that's contributing. Have you voted yet? I want to ask you, everybody that's watching, have you already voted? Are you going to go in person on the day of? Are you going to go in early? Are you going to early vote by mail or go in and early vote in person? Let me know. Let us know. We want to know what's happening out there and what the deal is. So let us know. Appreciate that. Run to the polls, everybody. And it's like we heard earlier. Run to the polls. Not those kind of polls. You guys like 49. Like we run to the polls. You know, getting wild, getting loose, getting funky on the poll. No, not those kind of polls. Run to the voting polls, man. Make your voice heard. Appreciate you. I want to give a shout out to our last panelists, the Indigenous organizers on the front line of climate and environmental justice panel. Wasn't that amazing, man? Didn't you appreciate all those ladies? Man, that's where it's at. The matriarchs, they got it together, man. Give them a shout out. Give them a praise hands or prayer hands or some fireworks in the comments. Man, that was amazing, wasn't it? Shoot. So shout out to Sean Dean, Walia, Bernadette, and Nidia for bringing that, man. That was amazing. And one thing that was mentioned, I think Walia mentioned it, was at one point it was illegal for us to vote. You know, even before we were citizens, you know, we were the original people of these lands. And they were sending us off to wars and we couldn't even vote then, man. And, you know, one thing that I always think about that my dad told me is that, you know, democracy came from us, from our people. We didn't have dictatorships like they did, you know, in Europe and beyond. They had dictatorships and they came over here and, you know, saw that the Six Nations people, we had democracy going on. You know, it wasn't just one person. There wasn't just one person running all of us. It was was council. You know, there was debate. There was much input, you know, from the elders and beyond. So I just wanted to point that out. That's something that they stole from us, or maybe they discovered. I don't know. Maybe they discovered it, and you know, of course, they don't give us credit for it. But anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in tonight. This has been amazing. I want to give a shout out to NDN Collective again for inviting me out. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. This has been a great event. We're going to move on to our next panel. We're a little bit behind time, but we want to hear what each of these individuals have to say, because we know there's so much talent, so much knowledge there and wisdom that we want to hear from them, and that I know they definitely want to share with us. So thank you guys for sticking in there and hanging with us. So we're going to move on to our next panel. This panel here is called Land Back. Land Back. Say it with me, everybody, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Land Back. I was trying to make my own land back hand sign, but I don't know. I better not do that. We'll just leave it at land back, man. Represent out there wherever you are. Land back. Say it loud. Say it proud. Wherever you're coming from. Our panelists are going to be Benishi Albert, Akua Smith, and Ana Gloria Rodriguez. And our moderator for this last panel is going to be none other than Miss Crystal Two Bulls. Take it away. Ahaha hey.
Good evening, relatives. Apeveshev, Mene Wostat Nanehav. My name's Crystal Tubuls. I'm Oglala Lakota, and I'm Northern Cheyenne, calling in from Northern Cheyenne Territory here in southeastern Montana. I'm the director of the Land Back campaign for NDN Collective, and I'm so honored to be here this evening. I know that we're, moving into the evening time, and I'm just grateful for all of the amazing speakers and the panelists and everything that has been shared up until this point. And I'm, going to transition us a little bit into our conversations with Land Back. You heard a little bit of it with the previous panel, and it was good conversation. And now I'm excited to really dive into Land Back and, acknowledge that here at NDN Collective, we launched the Land Back campaign, and we're stepping into this organizing and stepping into a long legacy of land back organizing and sacrifice and energy that our ancestors and all of our predecessors invested in. And it's an honor to be in that space and to really look at, first, like, land back is literally getting land back, and just acknowledging that and like naming that at the forefront, is we are talking about literal land back. And we're talking about that in a non-colonial way, and in a way that we are reclaiming relationship, and we are reclaiming stewardship with the land, and not ownership, right? And then also looking at land back also is the reclamation of everything that was taken from us when we were forcefully removed from the land. And that means, our language, our ceremonies, our medicine knowledge, hunting, fishing rights, harvesting, all of those things. And, as our teachings tell us, we are the land. And so with that, I want to bring on our panelists, and who are brilliant people who I have so much respect and admiration for, and just, bring them to this conversation and ask them to introduce themselves. And then, maybe briefly introduce yourself and your work, and then also share maybe what land back means to you and to your community. And then we can move into to more conversation around that. Yeah, Ish.
Fasan, Benishi, Zaiti, Soyaha Kanda, Anishinaabe, Zaisho Dasan, we woke Oklahoma, Dochene, Ayan Kad Onka. My name is Benishi Albert. I am Yuchi and Anishinaabe. I'm here with you today from Wewoka, Oklahoma, and I work with the Indigenous Environmental Network. And for me, land back means that nation-state borders don't mean anything, that counties and reservation borders don't mean anything, and that we can live and be and exist in this land as it was for our ancestors before colonization.
Akua, do you want to go next?
Yes. Thank you. My name is Akuya D. Smith. I'm so excited and honored to talk to y'all today. I am part of a network called Black Land and Power, and part of an initiative called the Black Land Liberation Initiative, which is exploring reparations and Black and Indigenous solidarity around land-based reparations and rematriation. To me, land back means returning to stewardship, returning to a stewardship relationship to land. And if you're really listening to the land, then I think what ends up happening is we share a collective vision and understanding of what needs to happen on that land. And first and foremost, understanding the historic responsibility of the land stewards who have been responsible for protecting, being in deep relationship, communication, translating, and guardianship and management of the land for thousands of years before this short blip of incredibly destructive relationship. So land back to me means returning the land to historic stewardship and weaving healing relations across the people who are now occupying lands to follow the leadership and stewardship of Indigenous culture, spirit, and ways of relating to land space.
Oh, that was so beautiful, both of you. And then Ana Gloria Rodriguez, if you want to introduce yourself and share a little bit about what land back means to you and your community.
Yes. Ako te peshaman ngay Ana Gloria Marta Nishi nakaliko pag nasa nyawait pit Matayum. Hello everyone, my name is Ana Gloria. A lot of people call me Marta. I'm very happy and it's a big honor for me to be in this panel with those amazing people. And I just want to thank you for the opportunity over here. And yeah, going back, we'll talk a little more about the Kumeyaay Nation in a little bit, so we can talk more about that.
Okay. Marta, would you like the opportunity to share what land back means to you?
Oh, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying, yes, because our Kumeyaay Nation is divided by the international Mexican and U.S. border. So, going land back, that means, that for me, it's just like to have the government to give us respect on both sides of the border, the Mexico and the United States. And then with all that happened with Trump, raising all the laws and stuff like that to put the wall and marginalizing our people. And then that's why we are over here, fighting this legal fight and go front lines and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. I love getting the perspective because I feel like I've been immersed in land back conversation, with the land back campaign launch and all of that. But I truly value all of the views and the ways that we're defining it and all the different ways that we're really experiencing land back, right? And so I appreciate each one of you. And also, I have to admit, coming on here on this webinar, like I'm also not a voter. And I heard that mentioned a few times before. And I have, my own thoughts on that. And I do think that it's hard for me to say that I did vote already. I already sent in my ballot, and I do encourage folks to, primarily because we come from really intelligent and strategic peoples, right? And we have to look at things from a very strategic eye and understand that, as we've heard in all of the panels before this, that voting is just one tactic, right? One tool that we have at our disposal right now, and just using it as a tool, and acknowledging that I do not think that it is the answer, but it is one approach. And so Banishi and I and several others have had conversations around our complicated relationships with voting, and acknowledging that we kind of all exist on the spectrum, and our politics shift over time, right? And so I just wanted to give each of you a few minutes to speak about, what can voting mean for land back and for these struggles. And so maybe even share a little bit about the struggles that you are currently having and engaging in with land back, and what voting could potentially mean for that. And, whoever feels comfortable going first.
I'll give it a go. We'll see. So, I come from a movement family, right? My parents are veterans of the Wounded Knee time in '73, right? And so the idea of voting is complicated because it's participating in an oppressor's system, but at the same time, not voting is also can be oppressive, because we don't then get to have a say in those who are making decisions. Because whether I vote or not, people are still going to be making decisions on my behalf, because they're making decisions about land and water and regulations and all of this stuff, right? And so even for my parents, it was complicated. My great-grandmother was 103 when she passed, and I knew her as a little girl, and my grandmother didn't speak English, and she signed her name with an X, but she still would go and vote. And the story is, my grandmother would go vote all the time, and she suffered no fools, right? And so I remember that. I think about that and what that responsibility means. And I started voting, I believe, when I was 20, and years ago now, and I won't say how far back, but Ross Perot was running for office, and that, if you want to do the math on that. And this year, my son, who just turned 18 this summer, is voting for the first time. And, for him as a young man, he's had honest conversations with me that he has no trust in the candidates, but he's also going to vote, right? And he's going to vote, and he's going to cast that. And that's a real struggle for some people. And so I think that is going to continue to be, but we have to be able to both hold the system accountable and try to deconstruct the system and decolonize that system, right? And so what's at stake for Land Back is that whoever gets elected gets to choose who leads the Department of Interior, who leads IHS and BIA. They get to decide who is going to be leading the EPA and the Bureau of Land Management. All of these agencies that are making decisions on behalf of Indian people, whether we like it or not, they're making the decisions, right? And so what's at stake is that we need to be able to decide who are those people that are elected that make these decisions. Because everything from Anwar up in Alaska getting opened up for oil and gas development, down to Louisiana and the Huma people who are being impacted by climate change, like, elections matter to these communities. Public lands are about to be opened up for exploration for oil and gas, when public land should be held for all of us. And if they're going to be opened up for anything, it should be to have land back to our indigenous communities. And whoever gets elected gets to decide about the Supreme Court. And we saw an important decision just made recently here in Oklahoma around the McGirt decision that had on what land looks like and jurisdiction over that land. And that had an impact for a lot of other communities. And so we need to be able to both hold that system accountable and participate, and also look at ways that we're deconstructing that.
I'll probably ask Akua to go next. And I do have like a little bit of a specific question for Martha as we get to you. So we'll go in that order.
Okay. I love going after Benicia always because she definitely just broke it down in terms of some of the actual departments that are currently land management is in the hands of. That's what's devastating. That's the thing that we need to sit with and mourn and have some serious emotions about. The fact that the Bureau of Land Management, the USDA, all of these departments are federal institutions, are controlling land, the speculative market, and real estate investors. That is who is managing land right now. And that brings me back to land back, which is like really just taking the management of land out of the hands of these people. But what we know is right now it is. And that the work we have ahead, if we truly want to abolish, decolonize, is generations. And so to me, voting is honoring and recognizing that this is generational work, that how we bring our children in matters, that, I think I've heard a lot of folks today actually speak about elders as a part of their relationship to voting. But this is generational work, and every 4 years, voting and or putting an awesome event like today together, supporting your family or community to get a vote in that creates a little bit more space for the earth to heal. If there's like a little less drilling, if there are actual regulations, there's a big difference in these elections about how the earth will be managed and how the people will be able to engage and in that decision making. And the slightest difference makes a huge difference to what happens to the land for the next 4 years. So I think this time is so much about navigating contradictions. And so I allow myself to be angry that I have to vote, that I feel like I need to vote, angry about who I have to vote for. And I'm stay pretty enraged about who is making decisions about Earth right now and our people right now. So, I'm incredibly committed to the generational work and to digging deep into our land strategies. And I can, when I listen to my people who are living in other countries, in particular places like Brazil, and folks who are thinking of stewarding the Amazon, or folks who are dealing with what's happening to people and policing in Brazil and Central and South America. When I listen to the earth, voting actually is important. And so it's less, I'm not listening to the people who are shaming me into voting, who are like, you have to vote or you're not doing so. Those aren't the people I'm listening to. I'm listening to the people and the animal and plant and all of Earth's relatives who are like, this vote actually makes a difference here. And as you, of course, know, it's not everything. So.
Definitely. Oh man, both of you have my mind just like racing and wanting to jump in, but I want to stay focused. But I also, just invite folks in the chat as well to say what land back means to you. Join us in that conversation. But also I want to move over to Marta and just recognize and acknowledge that like land back doesn't recognize colonial borders, right? But as we know, the way we're experiencing things, like our Kumeyaay relatives, our O'odham relatives, our Yaqui relatives, you know, are existing on both sides of this so-called border, right? And then also acknowledging that we have a lot of relatives that are on their own lands and cannot vote. And so I just, you know, kind of pose that question to you of like, what does that mean to be on your own homelands and in your own territory and to not be able to vote and to not engage in this in that same way?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's very frustrating, you know, first of all, to see, you know, well, a little bit, I want to talk about the Kumeyaay Nation for the people, you know, they don't know about the Kumeyaay Nation. We are Kumeyaay, and according to our creation story, you know, we are from here, from the Pacific Ocean. And then, so the picture you see in my back, that's, you know, that's a Kumeyaay village, you know, people was free, you know, our people, you know, go to the ocean, to the mountains, to the desert. So we travel all this land because for us, it's our holy land. And right now, we're fighting since the encroachment came over here, you know, our people, you know, they were like, we are, you know, warriors because we fight for our freedom. Our people fight for our freedom, you know. We burned the mission, we killed the father, and our people did all stuff so we can have the freedom. And now we have this border wall that's, you know, dividing our people. I mean, this is our home too. You know, like you said before, you know, people cannot vote, you know, because they're not legally recognized. So, so it's even you know, some of our Kumeyaay reservations are in Baja side. The government over there, they don't have respect for the Kumeyaay over there neither. You know, we don't have a lot to represent us. And then, so yeah, so we are like all this time fighting for our, you know, for respect, for recognition, all the tribes in Baja too, you know, not only all the Kumeyays, but also, you know, they have all the Kumeyays that on both sides of the border, like the Tohono O'odham and other ones. And then, so we're like, I think it's time for all of us to be united. And then, because, you know, it's not only damage our sacred sites, but also animals and plants. I mean, they're destroying, you know, with the global warming and stuff like that. And it's because, you know, we don't have laws to protect, you know, our nations. So that's why, you know, we always fighting for, you know, to be recognized. And, you know, our ancestors, you know, they fight for our freedom and to preserve. And thank you to that, we're still here. So for us, you know, right now, like fighting against the government over here, you know, legally and go to the front lines every time, we honor them too, you know, we honor them so we can be, a Kumeyaay Nation can be respected, and to, so the government stop desecration, you know, and then destroying Mother Earth every time they decide to have this construction. So, like you say, you know, we are the voice, you know, for the, you know, for the nature and for the animals and stuff like that. You know, that's why like we are very active to, you know, to keep going with this fight. So, you know, that's what I'm saying. The government, you know, we have to have somebody who really cares, you know, somebody who want to protect the people, you know.
Yes, thank you so much. I appreciate all of the insight and the perspective coming from our own communities and from all of our work. And, you know, I think it was Oren Lyons that had said, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think that, this is kind of one of those situations where that plays out, and we experience it, right? And especially with, our relatives that don't have voices, like our plant relatives, our four-legged relatives, and so just really looking at that, and our relatives who have been disenfranchised from voting. And so just acknowledging that. But I wish we could continue on our conversation about all things land back. And, I know we all have so much invested in that conversation with land back. And I, do invite folks to continue the conversation in the chat. But really quick, just wrapping up, just want to ask each one of you to maybe share a way to, like, a message or a way to take action that you really feel like our audience should know and should mobilize around, whether it's specific to voting or specific to land back or both, but just something that you want to share with our audience as we continue to close out this conversation. But just want to appreciate you. And Benishi, I know you have to rush off, so I'll start with you.
So get one of these, know it, understand it. It's the U.S. Constitution, right? It's was written to not include us, right? But we have to know that law and be able to use it and know that system and use it even against them. And then second, I will say is voting is not the beginning or end of the action that we should take, right? It's just one of the pieces. It also means that whoever is elected, once they're elected, no matter what your party affiliation is, they then represent that whole community, which means you have a responsibility to hold them accountable to represent what you want to have out there. So call them, make yourself known, send them letters, send them emails, whatever you got to do to participate in those places where elected officials are, all the way from the top down to the bottom. Go to the city council, go to the county commission, go to the corporation commission. These are all elected bodies that we have responsibility to talk to and let them know what our values are around protecting the land and protecting people and protecting community. And we share those, we have to share those values with them and hold their feet to the fire to make sure they carry those values, no matter what my party is, right? Go and do it.
Thank you, Benishi. Akua?
Okay, so vote. And I think in addition, see who is in your, start mapping who are your people. For some people, it's very obvious who your people are. And for some people, not so much. And begin weaving healing relationship and creating containers where folks can heal and share decision-making over shared resource, whether it's, if it starts with sharing food or even putting a little emergency pot of money together, but starting to practice collective management and creating spaces where we're actually weaving interdependence with the land and each other. Also becomes, if we really start building those relationships, those also become a base for organizing. So when the next vote time comes around, it's pretty easy. So next meal, you tell your folks, okay, what are we doing about this election? But in the meantime, and the really important future building work can happen. And I would be remiss not to mention, I think we need a lot of time on building and practicing transforming our relationship across Black and Indigenous, and even saying across isn't quite correct because there are really false divisions between us. But really being in solidarity, to me, in the end, means abolition and decolonization, and that we spend the time between now and moving towards that, gracefully transforming next to each other as we practice together. So really getting into a practice of building with your folks and building across with the Black and Indigenous land stewards in your community or your neighboring community. And one way to do that is to look to Black and Indigenous liberation movement, which just kicked off as a really, I think, powerful space to support each other, to continue to connect. And of course, even as we've kicked off, it completely centered around land. So that's what I got for folks.
Beautiful. Thank you. And Marta, to close us out, just your final thoughts or anything you want to share around land back voting that you just want our audience to have and take with them as they move forward.
Yes. Well, I think it's a moment for all Indigenous people and all human people to be united and protect Mother Earth. Be united, and then and really, start for ourselves too. Take care of Mother Earth, and have the relationship between all these Indigenous people, so we can continue to protect Mother Earth and all the animals and plants and plants and stuff like that. Because as a Kumeyaay Nation, for example, and on other Indigenous, we survived for thousands and hundreds of years thank you to their traditional knowledge. So it's time for us to preserve that, take care of Mother Earth, and then really, it's not only Indigenous, but everyone, global warming is real. So let's be united and keep our planet beautiful. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Marta. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. And, just also acknowledging that, voting is a tool that moves us towards collective liberation, that Akua was referencing, of really envisioning a world of collective liberation where Black reparations and Indigenous land back and sovereignty coexist, right? And looking at that, where we don't recognize and acknowledge colonial borders. And so really diving into those relationships and deepening those relationships is very, very important. And just appreciate each one of you for sharing your knowledge, and also encourage people vote. It's one tool that will get us and move us in that direction. And so thank you for your ears this evening and for your attention, and just, encourage folks to vote. Yeah, Ish.
Reach out and take my hand, open up your eyes, I'ma show you who I am. Escucha mi amor, tengo mucho que contar. Medio complicado, mi pasado tan real. Una historia de amor, quién sabe qué será, qué será. Espejo del cielo me lo dieron sin pensar. Como mis ancestros, elders read it in the stars, yeah. Boy to a man, I'm the product of a border in the sand, yes. I've been wide awake, I'm sick of the cold. I'm acting okay when I'm really afraid. Don't want them to know, yeah. I'm here to tryna get by. How we gon' live right? But we didn't come here for free, no. We didn't come here for free, no. I've been wide awake, I'm sick of the cold. I'm acting okay when I'm really afraid. Don't want them to know, yeah. I'm here to tryna get by. How we gon' live right? We didn't come here for free, no. We're still paying the price, yeah. I'm born alone, die alone. I pray she be my in-between. The inconsistencies of how I feel, ripping at the seams. This country wasn't made for me. They eat the fruit my people pick. Grown on stolen soil, flowing oil. Broken hands and sip the water. The trauma run as deep as the love. The culture kept alive, a secret from us, yeah. It's as red as the road I walk, it's all that I know. It's as deep as the pain, it's my family home. I've been wide awake, I'm sick of the cold. I'm acting okay when I'm really afraid. Don't want them to know, yeah. I'm here to tryna get by. How we gon' live right? But we didn't come here for free, no. We didn't come here for free, no. I've been wide awake, I'm sick of the cold. I'm acting okay when I'm really afraid. tryna get by. How we gon' live right? We didn't come here for free, no. We're still paying the price, yeah. Mírame, 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 mira. Yo nací con las fronteras dentro mis venas, no me esperas. Mírame, mírame, amanecer, amanecer, yeah. You're still paying the price.
And that was awesome. Everybody give it up for Chetezka Martinez with the music right there. That was beautiful, man. I love that video. I showed him those moves, the jacket and the braids. I think I showed him that. No, I'm just kidding. That was awesome, though, man. That was visually sweet. Shout out to our panelists just now. Thank you to our moderator, Crystal Two Bulls, and all our panelists, Benishi Albert, Akua Smith, and Ana Gloria Rodriguez. That was awesome. This was a beautiful lineup of speakers and performers today. We just had relatives from all over the place, man. So thank you guys so much. Hey, Tanya's back. There she is.
Hey, thank you, everyone. That was so fun. Wopila, Mazagadad. I appreciate each and every one of your time, your voices. A lot of people were inspired today. I definitely was. I was like, what? I didn't know that. What? No, really, though. There was so much education today that I just felt overwhelmed with joy and happiness. I'm really thankful for all of you for your powerful voices. It's so inspiring to all of our people and our nations. And I'm really grateful. So thank you.
Yes, definitely. That was like, man, just knowledge bombs left and right. Boom, 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 boom. I'm uplifted and ready to go forward, man. Ready to go and vote for some people,
go vote,
against some people. Go vote. Let's go, Dan. Let's go for it.
Go, Dan.
One thing that Benishi said that really stuck out to me is hold your elected officials responsible. You know, we put them there, the people that voted, and that's all the way from locally, regionally, to nationally. I mean, we did that. You did that. Just look at Deb Holland and Sharice Richards today. You know, it was the native vote in those states that helped contribute to their election. So, you know, the vote does matter. So I just wanted to say that real quick because I thought that was really cool what Benishi said. But it was good to see everybody today. Tanya, good to see you virtually.
Yeah, good to see you too.
Dang, I know it's been a long time. I think didn't we do a voting event last time, like 4 years ago in Wisconsin?
Real long.
Yeah, no. Was that a voting event? I think it was.
Yeah, honey.
Way back. Way back.
Way long time ago. I don't even remember. I just now got here. I'm just now open eyes and open ears now. I'm just not here, so you have to excuse me 4 years ago.
She's just reborn. She's been reborn.
Yeah, she's new now. That's why she has a light around her.
Hey, all new. I never seen her with that fur right there.
See that? See that right there? That aura?
Was that buffalo robe I gave you that buffalo robe, remember?
I never did get it. You kept saying Doksan.
Glad to see you made that into a neck piece. I hope.
Hey. You mean this?
Yeah, stunting. Thank you guys. Shout out to all of NDN Collective and all the organizers, man. Appreciate you guys, everything that you did. Dwayne and Daniel behind the scenes, man. Thank you guys. There was a lot that went into it. So thank you guys for tuning in and watching today. Shout out to Natives Outdoors and Indian Collective. And man, I'm just ready to go scout in.
This was really fun. I had a lot of fun, and I'm really thankful to be a co-host with Tatanka Means. The Tatanka Means. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So fun, so exciting.
I know. We got to do it again. This was fun. TNT.
Yeah.
TNT. It's like
tons and tons.
Yeah. So thank you guys.
Thank you
hit us up. Follow Tanya. Follow Indian Collective. Follow Natives Outdoors.
Follow Tatanka.
Hey, if you want to. But you know where we're at, and we look forward to the next one. Thank you guys. Have a good night. Stay safe. Mask up if you want to. I got mine on. I'm gonna be, I don't know. Yeah, agone.
Hey!